personally see you off. And that was my fault. This time, I will properly send you on your way. After speaking, he waved his arm, as if releasing an invisible force. With this action, the locked gene locks of the 4th-tier troops were instantly unlocked, their power skyrocketing like a volcanic eruption. Subai turned and walked away, his steps firm and steady. His silhouette appeared particularly tall under the sunlight, as if carrying endless determination and strength. Behind him, countless units were lined up in perfect order. All their cannons aimed at the same target, Zhao Haoyan. Immediately afterward, a deafening roar erupted as thousands of cannons fired simultaneously, the dense barrage pouring down like rain. The explosion was astonishing, magnificent, and dazzling. The entire scene resembled a colorful painting, breathtaking to behold. Amidst this brilliance, Zhao Haoyan was completely turned to dust, leaving no trace behind. Subai let out a deep breath. A massive weight finally lifted from his heart. He knew that the feud with the other party had come to an end. This long and winding journey had finally reached its conclusion at this moment. Chapter 193. Traitors executed by cannon fire, dog execution. At the same time, congratulations to the demon team for dominating Azeroth. Rewards are now being calculated. Subai earned points, 356, 869. Sato Takara earned points, 85, 799. Lizette Hanley earned points, 25, 689. Taguchi earned points, 8, 568. Park Etienne earned points, 4, 380. Of the 10 who entered, only 5 members returned to the main god space. Upon returning, Park Etienne immediately grabbed Taguchi by the collar, shouting, "You little traitor! How dare you lead the way for them? I'm going to kill you." Taguchi effortlessly shook him off, sending this lesser newcomer tumbling to the ground. "Subai? Brother Subai? Taguchi, this traitor, has turned on us." Subai slowly walked over, coldly observing Taguchi, who showed no concern at all. He stepped on Park Etienne's head and met Subai's gaze. "Killing you now is as easy as slaughtering a chicken," Subai said coldly. Unexpectedly, the other party burst into laughter. "Haha, Subai, you truly are extraordinarily powerful. In the entire battlefield of All Realms team, I am willing to respectfully call you the strongest. However, you cannot kill me. Instead, I can control you. Why?" Beside us, Sato Takara revealed the truth. Tonggu was one of the earliest followers of the former team leader, Zheng Jia. With Zheng Jia dead, the position of team leader would automatically shift to Tonggu according to the main deity's rules. With the title of team leader, in the space of the main deity, other team members could not attack him. Tonggu continued to laugh, saying, "Not only that, but in the main deity's space, I can also issue 3 commands to you. Any command is permissible, and you must complete it. Otherwise, you will be erased by the main deity." Subai glanced at Sato Takara, who nodded in confirmation. "Subai, since Tonggu has become the team leader, I advise you to cooperate obediently. Even after entering the battlefield of all realms, do not oppose him. Otherwise, if he gives you a life-threatening order, it will be troublesome," Sato Takara said with concern. Tonggu clapped his legs. "Someone who knows me, it's Takara. Now, Subai, make the one who likes you, Sato Takara, kneel before me and bow to plead for love. Perhaps I will not issue any commands to you." Just then, the voice of the main deity echoed in everyone's minds. Due to the death of the original team leader Zheng Jia, the appointment of a new team leader will now commence. Appointment confirmed. The new team leader is a member of the demon team. At this point, Tonggu was laughing so hard that he was drooling, envisioning his bright future where Sato Takara finally belonged to him. As long as he eliminated Subai, both beauty and status would be his, and he would become the true king of the battlefield of all realms. However, at that moment, Tonggu heard shocking news. Subai is appointed. Huh, what is going on? Did I hear wrong? It must be that. How could the position of team leader be given to Subai? That is so unfair. Tonggu couldn't accept this fact and immediately questioned the main deity loudly. "Main deity, shouldn't the team leader be me? How could it be given to that newcomer? This is not fair." He couldn't believe what the main deity had just said and thought he must have misheard. However, the answer given by the main deity made Subai suddenly realize. It turned out that Zheng Jia not only bestowed the light of the mind upon Subai, but also transferred the position of team leader to him. At this moment, Tonggu had a completely dumbfounded expression, unable to believe what was happening before his eyes. How could this be? Tonggu's legs went weak, and he instantly knelt on the ground, filled with despair and unwillingness. "Subai, I was just bragging earlier. A wise person does not hold grudges against the petty. Besides, being a dog for Zhao Haoyan was forced upon me." Subai smirked. "I still prefer the arrogant and defiant look you had earlier." Park Il-cheon was overjoyed. Earlier, Kirigaya had embarrassed him. He rushed forward, kicked Kirigaya to the ground, pinned him down, and relentlessly slapped him while shouting, "How dare you fight back earlier? How dare you? Today, I must beat you to death. Captain Subai, give the order now. Make him strip off all his valuable gear and hand it over." We'll split it among everyone. Subai shot Park Il-cheon a disdainful look. Step aside, you fool. Even if gear is handed over, it's not your turn to take it, he cursed. Understood. Park Il-cheon, will remain loyal and united under Captain Subai's leadership, never falling behind. If Captain Subai orders me to climb mountains of blades or swim through seas of fire, I will not hesitate. Lisette Hanley cursed inwardly. This damn Korean. Why is he such a spineless dog in every parallel universe? He grovels before the strong without an ounce of dignity, and he does it so disgustingly. She then adjusted the fabric over her chest to make her assets appear larger, and, clutching Subai's arm affectionately with her two ample white rabbits, said sweetly, Captain Subai, I have a perfect punishment for him. I'm sure you'll be satisfied. Let's hear it. In our Napoleon Empire, there has long been an execution device called the guillotine. You could order this traitor to lie down on it and end himself. Kirigaya gasped, shocked by the venom of this golden-haired, voluptuous beauty. She was actually telling him to die? He cursed her thousands of times in his heart. Subai lifted Lisette Hanley's chin with his hand. You're being too harsh on him. After all, he is our teammate. If he must die, it should be with some value. Kirigaya cried out. That's right, Captain. In any future cross-dimensional battles, I will lead the charge and volunteer to clear minefields, sharing the burden for everyone. Subai shook his head. You're overthinking it. What I mean is, in our parallel universe on Blue Star, there's a country next to Dragon Nation that, when executing criminals, likes to measure the power of their cannons. What do you mean? Subai remained silent, deploying the Allied base vehicle and setting up various structures right in the square until a massive cannon emerged from the ground. Boris, execute him by cannon. Without another word, the hero Boris struck Kirigaya's head with the butt of his rifle, dazing him, then tied him to the cannon's muzzle. There was no need for any compulsory orders from a higher power. This traitor couldn't even defeat his own hero now. He could only await death. With a deafening roar, the cannon fired a massive shell. Far in the distance, a white light flashed, and a mushroom cloud rose into the sky. A powerful shockwave followed, accompanied by a violent storm. The remnants of Kirigaya's body were blown by the immense force to Park Il-cheon's feet, making him jump in fright. So damn unlucky. Rover, eat this scum's flesh. 50 police dogs rushed out from Subai's chest, beginning to devour the remains of Tongu. The dogs were meticulous in their eating, even licking the blood off the ground clean. This method of dealing with traitors shocked Lisette Hanley and Park Etienne. It was truly terrifying. First, execution by cannon, then by dogs. Brutal. Both of them couldn't help but gulp as they thought about having to deal with this demonic team leader. Would he be even more terrifying than the previous one, Xingxia? After eliminating the traitor, Subai began to set rules for the remaining few. Since this main divine space was created by ancient forces to resist invasions from various races, there would be no restrictions in future battles. Of course, I hope there won't be any new traitor like Sato Takara. Let's go back and rest. The next day, Subai lazily got out of bed. This time, facing the strongest enemy from Azeroth, he felt he almost faltered, especially with Zhao Haotian, who had resurrected, completely exceeding Subai's expectations, like an unkillable cockroach. Subai couldn't help but admire him. If this guy wasn't thinking about revenge, he would definitely be a dominant force. It seemed necessary to continue strengthening his own power, as well as that of his teammates, to ensure stability. Subai summoned the engineer. Commander, how is the research on the nanocore going? As per your instructions, converting these nanocores into corresponding structures requires very complex science. According to our engineers from the Sioux Alliance and the Three Nations, I regret to inform you that it is beyond my capabilities. Is that so? Subai replied, not too disappointed, as he had expected this. After all, the nanotechnology of the Rising Sun Empire in Red Alert 3 was indeed very mysterious. Its ability to repeatedly stack and expand was thanks to the very small nanobots. If technology could reach that level, the Soviet army in Red Alert 3 wouldn't be so outdated in building structures. Then, what do you think we currently lack in technology? Mainly nano-folding technology, the engineer responded, confirming Subai's thoughts. Now, whether it could be achieved depended on consulting the main divine entity that sold myriad goods. Arriving at the plaza, Subai saw Park Etienne purchasing items. Captain, are you here to buy personal attributes? They have everything here. I just checked. Things like physique, talent, and lineage can all be purchased. Look at the werewolf lineage I exchanged. It allows for a recovery of health at a rate of 3 per second when taking damage. Isn't that strong? Body modification is indeed unique to the main divine space. Originally, Subai fought against the Terminator, who transformed himself into a mechanical life form to enhance his physical abilities. Captain, since you are so fierce, why not transform into a demon body, flowing with demonic blood, and become a supervillain? That way, you would truly live up to the name of the demon squad leader. Park Etienne flattered him. Get lost. I am a proper citizen of the Dragon Country. How could I change my bloodline for power? Captain, this isn't really a big deal, after all. Black dragons are still dragons. Seeing Su Bai's displeased expression, Park Etienne quickly slapped himself twice and left in disgrace. What a joke. The purpose of the battlefield is to block the invasion of various races. Actively mixing with these foreign bloodlines would mean becoming one of them. Su Bai directly skipped the section for personal commander enhancement in the main god space. He searched for clues about nanobots or nanoworms. Although he found a lot of relevant content, it always fell short of what he wanted. Angrily, Su Bai said, "This nano core. Can you help me transform it into a base vehicle from Red Alert 3? How many points do you need? I'll give you as many points as you want." Unexpectedly, something unexpected happened. Beep. Detected host request. Scanning nano core. Scan complete. Can be upgraded. Detected differences between Red Alert 2 and Red Alert 3 engines. Unable to upgrade. Please upgrade the engine first. To Su Bai's surprise, his complaints about the main god triggered a response from his system, which also provided a corresponding answer. Upgrade the engine. It made sense. There was a considerable time gap between Red Alert 2 and Red Alert 3, and the game's graphics and gameplay underwent a complete transformation. The system's requirement to upgrade the engine was understandable. Following the system's instructions, Su Bai began searching for this type of item in the main god space. Sure enough, he found a corresponding 3D engine. However, how could he install it into his system? Carefully reading the product description, there were 2 ways to download the engine. The first way required only 50 points for redemption. What he would receive was just a USB drive containing the engine system, which could be used on a computer. The second option required an astonishing 50,000 points. This option would directly download the engine system into the host's brain. Of course, there were prerequisites. If an ordinary person downloaded excessive 3-dimensional information, their brain might not be able to handle the overload of information, leading to potential brain damage. In mild cases, it could result in mental illness. In severe cases, it could lead to brain death. Thus, the main god shop kindly added a warning sign before this purchase option. It is recommended that only 4th-tier warriors with gene locks choose this purchase method. This surprised Su Bai. He didn't expect there to be restrictions. If it were in the past, even if he had known this method in advance, to advance to the 4th tier of the gene lock warrior, he would have had to experience thousands of near-death battles, according to other team members, to unlock it between life and death. Su Bai thought about how ever since he had the Red Alert system, he had been invincible, and most battles were simply a one-sided push. There had never been a scenario where he fought for survival, not to mention unlocking the 4th tier of the gene lock. Even unlocking the gene lock itself seemed permanently out of reach for Su Bai. With this thought, Su Bai once again thanked the demon team's captain, Zheng Jia. Although that guy was a villain, he was essentially a good person. Without hesitation, Su Bai immediately chose to purchase. His points quickly dropped from over 150,000 to 100,000. At the same time, he felt a stream of data piercing through the crown of his head into his brain. This massive data swiftly invaded a neural area in Su Bai's brain. However, before this data could linger for even a second in that neural area, it was absorbed and devoured by another force, Su Bai's level 20 Red Alert system. New engine detected. System begins downloading Red Alert 3. Downloading. Suddenly, a huge download bar appeared within Su Bai's body. The data began downloading at an extremely slow speed, as if every second was being infinitely extended, causing immense torment. This overwhelming sensation made Su Bai's head throb, as if countless fine needles were weaving and stirring in his mind. He furrowed his brows tightly, trying to steady his spirit and resist the pain. Then, Su Bai crossed his legs and sat down, closing his eyes to start operating the Great Zhoutian technique. He adjusted his breathing, allowing the energy to circulate within his body, hoping to alleviate the intense headache. Time passed like grains of sand in an hourglass, and the sweat on Su Bai's forehead increased, dripping down like large raindrops. Chapter 195. Another force outside the battlefield of all realms, a nightmare among all beings, is watching Blue Star. Current download. 3. Current download. 5. Current download. 55. This continued for 3 days and 3 nights until the download finally reached 100. Download complete. Now starting installation, another long progress bar appeared. This time, it took another day and night. Installation successful. Congratulations, host. Your system has officially upgraded to Red Alert 30. Hearing this news, Su Bai slowly exhaled a breath of turbid air and opened his eyes. Before him, the nano core that had always been placed in front of Su Bai had completely transformed into the type of nano core that could move for the Rising Sun Empire. He commanded it to be integrated into the Stone Sea, finding a freshly mined flat area. Su Bai issued the order, and the nano core unfolded. Sure enough, in the void, the nano robots began constructing the base for the Rising Sun Empire. This time, the construction was much faster than the system download, taking just a few minutes for the base to be completed. Now, they began producing power plants and barracks, with one moving nanocore after another being produced. Fortunately, These nanocores could be moved to any flat ground position before unfolding. This allowed Su Bai, who was already quite tense in his sea of consciousness, to strategically place the corresponding structures. Moreover, the buildings of the Rising Sun Empire had an additional advantage. They could be moved onto the sea. Coincidentally, due to the magical powers imparted to him by Angelina, Su Bai had genuinely created an energy sea in his sea of consciousness. He thought of placing the unnecessary power plants directly on the sea. Everything went smoothly. However, there was one thing Su Bai had yet to clarify. He wondered if producing allied soldiers now would directly convert them into peacekeeping troops armed with shotguns. If he fully upgraded to the new system, then the incredibly powerful troops from the previous version might also disappear. After all, having painstakingly obtained the new system, if it could not function as expected, it would be a significant loss. Fortunately, the system quickly provided an explanation, easing Su Bai's anxious heart. It turned out that the previous and new systems did not belong to the same game framework, and the systems were mutually independent, without any hierarchical relationship. This meant that Su Bai could freely produce units from the corresponding versions as needed. Upon learning this news, Su Bai was so excited that he nearly jumped up. However, his joy was short-lived as he felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him when the system detected that the host currently does not possess the base vehicles for the new Allied and Soviet factions, therefore cannot manufacture corresponding units. Well, Su Bai sighed helplessly but then comforted himself that at least he now had a complete Rising Sun faction. After spending 50,000 points, he still had 100,000 points remaining, which was quite a lot. He purchased several relics that increased the overall combat power of his troops, elevating them to a higher level. Among them were S-grade ammunition and magnetic explosive shells that enhanced the overall attack power. After equipping the troops with this ammunition, they could penetrate the defenses of metallic life forms. After all, Su Bai would no longer be as passive as he was when fighting the demon terminators. Now, a simple, ordinary mobilized soldier. His health points can reach a terrifying 10,000, with a damage output of 500 per second. If these ordinary soldiers were sent back to that original world, a single squad could easily control a city. Meanwhile, Zhao Haoyan's consciousness gradually blurred, as if his soul had left his body, with only a suffocating blood-red hue remaining in his sight. When he opened his eyes again, he was surprised to find himself in an empty cinema. The entire screening room was unusually quiet, with no one in the seats, and only the massive screen in the center flickering with numbers, counting down from 19, 18, 17. I'm still alive, Zhao Haoyan muttered to himself, instinctively clenching his fists. However, waves of intense and vivid phantom pain surged through him, making it almost unbearable. The excruciating sensation of being blown to pieces by a massive cannon and then devoured by ferocious dogs still washed over him like a tide, showing no sign of fading. Just then, the countdown on the big screen finally ended. Welcome to the horror world, the realm of the dead, a deep and hoarse voice suddenly echoed. Did you save me? Zhao Haoyan widened his eyes, trying to locate the source of the voice. Yes, I pulled your consciousness away, granting you a new life. From now on, you are my slave, the mysterious voice replied. Then what exactly is your purpose? Zhao Haoyan crossed his arms, regaining his confident demeanor. Next, you will enter countless horror events to collect nightmare monsters and rules from there, allowing this horror cinema to become the strongest force among all realms. As the cinema's big screen displayed subtitles, 7 or 8 others with the same purpose as Zhao Haoyan were transported back. Zhao Haoyan scoffed, not interested. Since you revived me, tell me how to enter that world. I want to go back and kill him. Zhao Haoyan shouted fiercely. You can only obey me, or you will face annihilation. Then let us see who is stronger. Zhao Haoyan provocatively challenged. At that moment, blood suddenly oozed from the cinema screen, and the iron foul smell filled the air. The other summoners of the horror cinema were startled and retreated in fear and shock. One man, referred to as the captain, trembled as he shouted, "Are you crazy? To challenge the cinema. It is the ruler of countless world's nightmares, known as a devil. What you're doing will get us all killed." However, Zhao Haoyan disregarded the captain's warning. Countless rule-based demons and armies of monsters began to emerge from the movie screen, with eerie and terrifying spirits howling all around. These malevolent spirits wrapped around Zhao Haoyan. Suddenly, Zhao Haoyan was engulfed in blazing flames, charging towards the screen at an astonishing speed. With a loud bang, the screen shattered, and glass shards flew everywhere. The onlookers were stunned, their eyes wide as they watched the unfolding chaos, unsure whether the horror cinema had triumphed or if the mysterious man had won. Chapter 196. Battlefield of 10,000 Realms. Mechanical demon god race. Having experienced numerous horror films, they understood that the cinema was the sovereign of terror across countless realms. No one could defy its will. As the blood mist dissipated, a blood-soaked figure slowly emerged. With an evil expression, his bangs covered half of his face. revealing only a malevolent yellow eye. He casually grabbed a man in a suit by the head, lifting him like a chicken and tossing him aside. The man crashed heavily onto his seat before sliding to the floor, motionless. Standing there, the figure scanned the crowd with a cold gaze. An incredibly powerful aura emanated from him, instilling an unprecedented sense of oppression in everyone present. The previous projectionist has been eliminated by me, and the true controller of the cinema has delegated power to me, he declared, his voice deep and resonant, as if each word carried immense weight. Now, the world of horror is under my command. As he uttered these words, the entire space seemed to tremble. Everyone was intimidated by his presence and knelt down in unison. We obey your command. The surviving audience members echoed in perfect harmony. For Zhao Haoyan, the malevolent spirits within the cinema were not much stronger than those from other realms. However, there were many rule-based ghosts here that could impose restrictions and influences on those who entered the cinema through various means. These rules could sometimes feel overwhelming, but if cleverly utilized, they could provide a way to break through the predicament. Zhao Haoyan contemplated to himself, believing that as long as he continued to explore and experiment, he would eventually master these rules and wield them effortlessly. At that time, he would surely be able to return to Su Bai's world and avenge past grievances. In the main god space, this time, the battlefield of 10,000 realms had sent us to Electronic Star to confront the mechanical life forms of the demon gods there. Su Bai briefed everyone on the upcoming mission. There were several tasks to undertake, such as conquering a race of electronic demon gods or multiple races of electronic demon gods. Of course, completing one of these would allow a return to the main god space. If anyone was afraid of dying, they could follow him to eliminate a race and return on their own. After Su Bai roughly outlined the tasks, 3 new individuals were sent over by the main god. After listening to the introduction, one of the scar-faced men said, You think you deserve to be the leader? I've killed 200 million people in the Dark Continent. This demon squad's captain shouldn't be you. I'll do whatever I want, and you have no right to criticize me. Fine, you can move freely, Su Bai replied expressionlessly. The scar-faced man muttered under his breath, What a show-off. As everyone entered and opened their eyes, they saw a human standing in front of them. The human was a woman dressed in mech armor, looking very high-tech. Welcome, warriors from the parallel world. Thank you for joining the fight against the mechanical demon gods. I am the Supreme Commander of the Defense Army, Ivan, and this is Eve. Welcome, Su Bai coldly remarked. Aren't you afraid that we might conquer the human race first? Beside him, Sato Takara whispered, We've been to this world before, forming an alliance with the human elite to resist the interstellar races. Next, I will arrange accommodations for everyone. Just as he finished speaking, a red alarm blared in their ears. Warning, warning, the mechanical life electronic demon god race has mobilized. In the distance, the giant defensive cannons at the edge of the base were hit by a series of attacks and exploded. Ivan and Eve were taken aback. How could this happen? Did the enemy detect the magnetic field changes here? It's over. We must abandon this base. Everyone, follow me to retreat. Su Bai was puzzled. Is this electronic demon god race really that terrifying? Why are we retreating right after they attack? Sato Takara explained. The electronic demon gods are the strongest race on the electronic planet. They are incredibly powerful, and the human race is no match for them. Even Captain Zheng Jia could only unleash his flames to block their attacks, unable to completely eliminate them. Before Su Bai could respond, the scar-faced man and his allies scoffed. TCH, what a big world, full of wonders. Now even the machines are rebelling. Brothers, can we handle this? Of course we can. With Hao Gu around, I bet we can make washing machines and vacuum cleaners do tricks. Hao Gu casually extinguished his cigarette and exhaled a puff of smoke. Young man, are you thinking of retreating after seeing this? Don't hang around thinking the captain is a big deal. In the demon squad, only I can be the captain. Su Bai advised, don't be too arrogant, middle-aged man. What if the enemy is really strong? If you go down, won't that be a loss? This statement directly angered the scar-faced man. Is being humble what a middle-aged man does? Brothers, let's go and wipe out the mechanical demons. So this young man won't show off in front of us again. Before Su Bai could reply, the scar-faced man and Hao Gu charged out of the safe defense zone with a few newcomers. A thunderous roar echoed from afar. As if the entire world was shaken by the sound, a mysterious and powerful aura suddenly emerged from afar, and the hero responded. Come forth. The elephant-headed deity, Ganesha. Accompanied by the passionate call of the hero, a colossal figure towering over 10 meters and weighing hundreds of tons slowly materialized. Its immense body radiated unparalleled majesty and strength, making one feel awed. The hero swiftly and nimbly leaped onto the broad shoulders of the elephant-headed deity, his movements skilled and confident, as if he had a tacit understanding with this gigantic being. Standing there, he resembled a war god, imposing and dignified. With a wave of his arm, tens of thousands of armored warriors, armed with sharp weapons, surged forth like a tidal wave. They marched in perfect unison, charging forward with tremendous momentum, each step causing the ground to tremble violently, akin to a magnitude 3 earthquake. These warriors not only possessed astonishing defensive capabilities, but also wielded formidable strength. Their emergence filled the entire battlefield with a sense of tension and pressure. The two onlookers watched in admiration at the hero's commanding presence. They too were undeterred and summoned their own troops, preparing to fight alongside him. In an instant, various unique and powerful units made their appearances, transforming the scene into an incredibly spectacular display. A thrilling battle was about to unfold. Lizette Hanley couldn't help but shake her head. These newcomers were indeed too disobedient and reckless. "Captain, why didn't you take out that scar-faced guy who was showing off earlier?" asked Park Etienne. "In the grand arena of the multiverse battlefield, if he thinks he has the strength, why should I stop him?" Subai had already set the rules in the demon team. Here, the absence of rules was itself a rule. Chaos represented freedom. He didn't need to lead anyone, nor did anyone need to be led by him. Each relied on their own strength to survive. After all, who would want to carry a bunch of dead weight every day? In the distance on the battlefield, the elephant-headed deity exhaled a powerful mist that enveloped the entire field. This mist was so thick it felt as if it could swallow the heavens and the earth. Within this fog, everyone's vision became blurred, as though obstructed by a heavy veil. Wow, the hero is amazing. This negative buff to enemies reduces visibility by 80. It's simply invincible. With the skill, we can definitely defeat our foes easily and achieve victory. Indeed, the hero is truly formidable. Much stronger than that guy Subai. I really don't understand how he became the captain when his strength is so weak. If the hero were captain, we would have already dominated the battlefield. Hearing their praises, the hero couldn't help but feel a sense of pride swelling within him. A satisfied smile appeared on his face as he secretly thought, "Humph, what is that guy? Just a weak and incompetent person. After I deal with these enemies in front of me, I will definitely show everyone my strength. That guy has 3 commands in his hands. If I make a move against him without a sure kill, it would be troublesome. This time, let's put on a show in front of them, letting them know our capabilities. That way, those few followers of his will surely switch sides. By then, he will become a Gujagarun, and I can take the chance to eliminate him quietly." Brother Hao had already considered all possible future scenarios and devised a flawless response plan. It can be said that he was confident about every step to come. However, human plans often fall short of divine ones, and just at this crucial moment, an unexpected event occurred. Suddenly, a strong wave of energy surged through the sky, followed by countless dazzling ion beams pouring down like rain. Faced with this sudden change, the once intimidating army was instantly thrown into chaos. In the blink of an eye, over 10,000 soldiers perished under the terrifying ion cannon attacks. What was even more chilling was that alongside these ion cannons appeared a group of mysterious and powerful electronic demons. They circled high above, overlooking the battlefield like grim reapers while continually dropping powerful bombs. In an instant, the entire battlefield was engulfed in the sound of endless explosions, with dense flames and thick smoke intertwining, creating a scene reminiscent of the apocalypse. Under such a devastating carpet bombing, more than half of the soldiers suffered heavy casualties. Some were blown to pieces, while others lay gravely injured in pools of blood. What the hell? This is outrageous. My miss didn't he work on him at all? Who is this guy anyway? Brother Hao widened his eyes, murmuring in disbelief. However, before he could regain his composure, a bomb streaked across the sky like a meteor, accurately landing on the enormous head of a deity. With a thunderous boom, the sound echoed through the heavens. The once imposing deity now looked utterly tragic. Its head blown to bits, blood and brain matter splattering everywhere, and its massive body uncontrollably crashing to the ground. Brother Hao, being closer to the explosion, was unfortunately hit in the abdomen by shrapnel. A sharp pain surged through him, making the world spin and his vision blur. Looking down, he saw his stomach stained red with blood, which was gushing out from the wound. "Brother Hao, are you okay?" A terrified subordinate rushed over, anxiously calling out. 10 minutes later, the two subordinates urgently brought Hao Gu in front of Subai. "The enemy is too strong. Captain, we should retreat. Hao Gu is dead." The two subordinates were terrified. Subai smiled slightly. "It's just a bullet wound. He should have some medicine on him. He won't die." Eve also said, "The enemy has both air and ground forces. We can't handle them at all. We should retreat." Subai raised an eyebrow. "Retreat? There's no retreating." He commanded his subordinates, Park Etienne and Lizette Hanley, to deploy their respective troops to block the enemy's relentless assault. Subai himself waved his hand, and the various troops he had previously plundered joined the battle. These troops did not consume Subai's money, but only his internal energy. Moreover, some had been meticulously modified by Subai's engineers. For example, the engineers successfully transformed the massive bear paws into a highly powerful combat giant bear, significantly enhancing its defensive capabilities. Other troops also underwent improvements by the engineers. One special type was the Berserk Werewolf, known for its agility, strong vitality, and astonishing running speed. Engineers cleverly injected the DNA of the savage beastmen into these werewolves. After this operation, the strength of the Berserk werewolves increased significantly, with their bite force even enhanced by 50 times. Although the two genes could not fully merge, the genes of the savage beastmen had a certain impact on the lives of the Berserk werewolves. However, thanks to the regenerative abilities inherent in the Berserk werewolves, they could perfectly withstand the powerful and ferocious strength of the savage beastmen. It is no exaggeration to say that this new type of monster has far surpassed the original capabilities of Su Bai's police dogs. They can turn invisible and inflict tons of bite damage on the enemy. Another impressive weapon is the Divine Arm Crossbow cart. Although it belongs to classical weaponry, its power should not be underestimated. The original commander made wartime modifications to this weapon, allowing it to fire multiple splitting arrows at once. These arrows can cause area damage on the battlefield, putting immense pressure on the enemy. In light of this, the Allied engineers decided to further modify the Divine Arm Crossbow cart. They added small missiles typically equipped on multifunctional infantry vehicles to the warheads. This way, each attack could not only produce splitting damage but also achieve mass destruction effects. This improvement undoubtedly greatly enhanced the combat power of the Divine Arm Crossbow cart, making it a deadly weapon on the battlefield. With these troops now engaged in war, both sides began to exchange fire from a distance. The enemy's mechanical demon race was composed of aerial units and long-range ion cannon firing units, compared to the melee elephant god troops of the other party. Su Bai's purely ranged forces are much stronger. Both sides are exchanging fire, and at least with the current troop strength, they can completely resist each other. Meanwhile, Su Bai is not idle. He stands high above, observing Eve's base. Chapter 198. Deploying the defense of the Rising Sun Empire. Steady as a mountain, thick and solid concrete walls, cold and hard alloy gates, along with numerous various defensive facilities scattered throughout. However, at this moment, many of the originally defensive artillery positions have been heavily damaged, almost losing their intended defensive capabilities. Su Bai gazes at all this, deep in thought. He knows very well that he currently has no information on the enemy's troop situation, and if he blindly attempts to break through, he could easily fall into a trap carefully laid by the enemy. After careful consideration, he realizes that only by solidifying the base and adopting a defensive counterattack strategy can he maximize combat effectiveness under the current circumstances. With his mind made up, Su Bai no longer hesitates. He begins to have the Rising Sun Empire produce the nanocores for defensive structures. This is because other factions would need to move their base vehicles out, which could expose them to sudden airstrikes from the enemy. As the saying goes, a gentleman does not stand under a dangerous wall. Using the mobile nanocores of the Rising Sun Empire to set up defensive buildings is the best strategy. Defender VX constructed. Defender VX constructed. Defender VX constructed. Su Bai first clicks on 20 nanocores for the Defender VX. This is the basic defensive building unit of the Rising Sun Empire, costing 800 gold coins. It is equipped with 2 sentry guns and anti-aircraft rockets, capable of switching freely between anti-air and ground attack modes. One could say this is a combination of a sentry gun and a Patriot missile defense system. As both sides are locked in fierce combat, the mysterious and powerful nanocore descends onto the defensive walls of the base. It begins to deploy at an astonishing speed, as if weaving a tight technological web. In the blink of an eye, countless tiny yet highly energetic nano-robots rapidly commence work, precisely following preset programs to build a series of indestructible defenders. These defenders stand like steel giants on the walls, shining with a cold metallic luster. At the same time, the cunning electronic demon cleverly bypasses the carefully arranged defensive array set up by Su Bai's team. They attack the base walls fiercely from the flank like ghosts, launching a sudden assault. The sound of gunfire and explosions intertwines, creating a deafening cacophony. However, what is astonishing is that the newly constructed defenders immediately display powerful combat capabilities. They fearlessly return fire, and where sparks fly, thousands of mechanized demons fall to the ground in an instant. Suddenly, a series of mechanical transformation sounds erupted, and the once imposing armored invaders instantly shifted into flight mode. They soared into the sky like a group of fierce falcons, heading straight towards the base, intending to use powerful bombs to destroy the defenders. Unfortunately, these overconfident attackers completely underestimated the base's defensive capabilities. Just as they were about to approach the defenders, those seemingly ordinary defensive structures underwent an astonishing transformation. They quickly morphed into rocket artillery, launching into the air with immense force. The rockets roared past like fire dragons, accurately striking the descending armored invaders. In the midst of the violent explosions, these arrogant aggressors fell one by one, reduced to a pile of wreckage scattered around the base. Seeing that the defenders were performing well, Su Bai continued to produce defensive facilities. Meanwhile, the sound of cannon fire in the distance gradually diminished. It seemed that the armored invaders were unable to break through and would need to change their strategy. Su Bai, however, paid little mind to this. He simply proceeded methodically, deploying the nanocores evenly at every effective defensive point in the base. Moreover, the deployment was to be neat and aesthetically pleasing, avoiding the complex and space-wasting designs seen in some architectural schools. After all, many perfectionists found his earlier videos quite distressing. Once everything was set up, the enemy indeed launched another attack. This time, the armored invaders surprisingly combined with one another to form a massive machine, resembling a gigantic land cruiser. It was equipped with numerous weapons capable of firing ion cannons and had extremely high defensive capabilities. Eve gasped in shock. They were about to launch a full-scale assault. Could we hold our ground? Was that metal mass formed by the armored invaders truly formidable? More than formidable. In our interstellar voyages, encountering a race of armored invaders capable of merging was not something conventional weapons could contend with, especially with the enemy preparing for a strong offensive. Su Bai nodded. It seemed that they also needed to bolster their defenses, since all his troops' ammunition had been upgraded to magnetic explosive rounds, dealing 300 extra damage to metal types. Constructing giant cannons to counter them seemed to be the best approach. However, time was running short. With this in mind, Su Bai opted for the most efficient production method of the Sunrise Empire, to produce their strongest defensive unit, the Wave Energy Tower. This defensive unit, powered by tidal generators, boasted damage comparable to the Allied Prism Towers. Moreover, compared to the Light Energy Towers, the Wave Energy Tower could concentrate and store wave energy, utilizing the wave-particle duality of light to deliver damage that could penetrate armor surfaces and inflict internal damage to enemy vehicles. Wave Energy Towers completed. Wave Energy Towers completed. Wave Energy Towers completed, accompanied by a futuristic mechanical sound. 30 Wave Energy Tower nanocores were produced at an astonishing speed. They were quickly supplemented next to the Defender VX structure. Soon after, a deafening roar erupted as the enemy launched a fierce ion cannon attack once again. This assault was exceptionally fierce, instantly blowing up 3 Defender structures. Additionally, 2 steel defensive walls were breached. Han Li and Park Etienne's troops also suffered heavy casualties, including the units summoned by Su Ban using energy. After all, the enemy was using technological weapons, which far exceeded the endurance of primitive units. However, this wave of attack unexpectedly gave the Wave Energy Towers sufficient time to complete construction. The nanobot robots were busily and diligently manufacturing. Massive turrets, resembling tank gun emplacements, gradually took shape. The Wave Energy Towers began to accumulate energy, and the powerful energy fluctuations made the surrounding air seem heavy. Suddenly, a loud bang pierced the sky as all turrets fired simultaneously, warping the space in the mid-air due to the energy emitted from the wave cannons. Eve shook her head. No, this attack is still too weak. It can't penetrate the enemy's armor at all. Su Bai smiled. Let the bullets fly for a while. Chapter 199. Terrifying Robot Iron Curtain Black Spider. After 2 seconds, the combined mech demon god exploded a section of Steel City wall. However, it did not continue moving forward as expected. Instead, its speed gradually slowed down. Eve was astonished, secretly speculating the reason. Could it be that the defensive facilities built by Su Bai had played a role? But she couldn't be completely certain, as the previous attack had not inflicted significant damage on the enemy. Although the defensive cannons built by Su Bai had extraordinary firepower, they seemed unable to stop the giant before her. So, why did it suddenly stop now? Could it be that this group of silicon-based life forms encountered some kind of malfunction or bug? Before Eve could figure out what was happening, the wave cannons launched another attack. Another round of volleys came with deep muffled sounds. The noise wasn't particularly loud, yet it caused the entire base to resonate intensely, as if an earthquake were occurring. What is going on? I suspect the engine inside that iron monstrosity exploded. How is that possible? You don't believe it? This is too unbelievable. According to our scientific conjectures and Dr. Einstein's verification of parallel universes, among countless universes, only we humans possess the most advanced level of technology. Humans in other dimensions simply cannot reach this level. To my surprise, I accidentally arrived in a world at the pinnacle of human technology. Unfortunately, Dr. Einstein's theory of cosmic unification still requires a bit more refinement. A smile crept onto Su Bai's lips. Who would have thought that Einstein, in any parallel universe, would still be a genius? However, he never had the chance to witness the rise of the Empire of the Rising Sun and naturally did not understand the significance of nanotechnology, nor the technique of God rolling dice. At this moment, the gigantic machines in the distance had ceased their movement. Only the dozens of artillery pieces continued to spew ion fireballs. The centipede-like behemoth may be dead but not lifeless, since it could no longer move. It marked the enemy's final hour. With a wave of his hand, Su Bai unleashed hundreds of terrifying robots. Iron Curtain. Envelop. the super defensive weapon of the forces. Skill activated. The black spider instantly took shape, unafraid of the enemy's powerful ion cannons, and charged forward at incredible speed. A series of rapid metallic grinding sounds echoed, reminiscent of demons from the depths of hell drawing near. That was the unique sound made by the terrifying robots as they moved swiftly, each step carrying a heart-stopping intimidation. The ion cannons unleashed a torrential barrage at the charging robots. However, this overwhelming firepower seemed to have no effect on them. An area of the forward base was instantly leveled to the ground. Yet amidst the rubble, the group of terrifying robots, clad in their invincible iron curtain, remained unscathed. They agilely slipped into the giant amalgamation of the enemy. The mechanical behemoth, which had been rendered immobile, miraculously began to rock back and forth under the invasion of the terrifying robots. Sparks flew, and countless parts were ejected from the interior, accompanied by deafening explosions. Amidst the blasts, many mechanical behemoths were forced to separate from their combined state. Some regained humanoid forms, panicking and fleeing backward. Others spread their wings in an attempt to escape into the sky. Unfortunately, at that moment, these mechanical behemoths were unable to execute normal movement functions. They swayed like drunken giants, stumbling and eventually collapsing to the ground. With a loud bang, the chest of a mechanical behemoth exploded open. Accompanied by bursting sparks and shattered circuit board fragments, a black terrifying robot peeked out from the opening. Immediately, this little creature set its sights on the other mechanical behemoths, as if they had become its next targets. The terrifying robot quickly sprang into action, darting like a specter among the mechanical behemoths, relentlessly pursuing and ruthlessly slaughtering them at every opportunity. The terrifying robots would unhesitatingly drill into the bodies of the mechanical titans, starting rampant destruction. In the face of such an attack, the weapons in the hands of those mechanical titans continuously retaliated. Yet they could never break through the impenetrable iron curtain shield that enveloped the terrifying robots. This shield acted as an insurmountable barrier, effortlessly deflecting all attacks, allowing the terrifying robots to rampage across the battlefield, bringing endless fear and destruction to the mechanical titans. Eve felt a surge of joy and couldn't help but grip Su-Bai's arm tightly. What kind of technology is this? It completely disregards the enemy's ion cannons. Tell me more. Tell me more. How could Su-Bai know the principle behind the Iron Curtain device when he played the strategy game? He also couldn't understand a black egg-like structure that released a black force field shield. He was baffled, so he pretended to be knowledgeable and replied, "The path of technology lies in continuous exploration. If I were to disclose this technology to you, wouldn't that stifle your progress on other branches of the tech tree?" At that moment, the previously besieging enemies finally retreated like a receding tide. They had no choice. They couldn't bring down the defenses. And they had just countered a wave of attacks themselves. If they didn't retreat, would they wait for total annihilation? The battle was over. Eve invited everyone to rest and designated defense zones for each person, ensuring that all troops had a place to garrison. Brother Hao, still nursing his wounds, glanced at Su-Bai, wanting to show off again. But the words caught in his throat. After all, he had just embarrassed himself. Unexpectedly, this kid had let the invincible skilled little robot take advantage of the situation. Cursing under his breath, he left the command center in frustration. Su-Bai ordered Sato to explain the current situation. "Master, this is currently the highest level of human development in a parallel universe on the battlefield among myriad worlds. It is also the front line closest to the invasion of various races. Right now, we are on Jiyuan Star. Here, the mechanical titan race, which surpasses human technology, is continuously invading. Moreover, according to unverified reports, there seems to be an unconfirmed creature capable of traversing the universe that has also infested this planet." Su-Bai stroked his chin. The highest level of human development? Is this the ceiling? According to a novel he had read called The Four Bodies, every civilization is like a hunter in a dark forest, holding a gun. In the face of the unknown, the safest approach is to fire a shot first. Only then can a civilization survive under the harsh laws. Chapter 200, Rebuilding the Base. This will become the base of the Rising Sun Empire in this universe. It seems humanity has encountered many gun-holding hunters. No wonder our ancestors established the battlefield of the 10,000 realms. Otherwise, how many parallel universes humans would be wiped out by the myriad races? "Sorry, I have news," Commander Eve whispered as she left. "Has the mechanical demon been repelled?" "Yes, it has," Eve replied. "Good, go dress yourself up, take off your uniform, and change into the most fashionable soft prosthetics from the current world. By the way, add a few mechanical assistive devices, like those from health shops. No matter what, you must make Captain Su-Bai feel something for you." "Eve, Dad, what are you talking about? This is so inappropriate." On the phone is the commander of the Earth Defense Forces, who is also Eve's father. She couldn't understand why her father was saying such nonsense. How can you talk like that? Asking Eve to please that man. Can she really do something without feelings? Eve felt warm inside. Her mom was the one who treated her well. No matter how strong Subai is, he must uphold the image of a commander, being just and upright. How could he flatter a man? So, let me handle this. With the current advanced technology and cosmetic body modifications, Captain Subai won't be able to tell that I'm over 40. I can dress up as a magical girl, a little fox fairy, any style. And your dad knows this. Eve, I feel like the sky is falling. Are you crazy? Even mom has gone mad, saying such things in front of her husband. What on earth are you two doing? After all these years of marriage, how can you say such things? I feel embarrassed for you. Then, on the phone, her father's stern voice rang out again. According to the analysis from the command center, the demon squad that came this time is led by someone with a higher level of technology than the previous Captain Zheng Jia from the Sword and Magic world. Moreover, I estimate that his team's technology level far exceeds ours by more than 100 years. You need to take good care of Subai, so he might share some advanced scientific technology with us. Who knows, we might save decades of detours in our technology. Therefore, as the commander of the Earth Defense Forces, this is not about pleasing a man. It is your mission, your test. Even if I am your father, in the face of human fate, we must put the greater good above our own family. On the other side, Hao Gu has just recovered from his injuries. He still spoke a bit weakly. Xiao Yang, do you two think I'm not up for it? The two shook their heads vigorously. Hao Gu lit a cigarette and took out a watermelon from his storage ring. Bang! He chopped the watermelon into pieces with a hand strike. See, sooner or later, Subai will end up like this. But Hao Gu, our strength is lacking. Moreover, why do you want the captain position so badly? Hao Gu snorted coldly. Look at you two, so unambitious. Do you think I only want the captain's title? He extinguished his cigarette and spat. Let me tell you. In this battlefield of countless realms, we are just pawns. The true commander of the war is the deity. As for the captain, he is just a mere piece in the game. But, Hao Gu emphasized these two words. The captain has special privileges, some of which even the old captain doesn't know about. In my world, the entire planet is strategizing for this battlefield. I believe I understand more than the representatives from all the regions in the current battlefield. As for the specifics, I will tell you both once I become the captain. But for now, I can say that my goal is to control all human beings in parallel worlds. We want our planet to become the king of all kings. The two younger brothers were somewhat excited, and Hao Gu promised them that as long as they helped him achieve this, each could rule over 10 parallel universes and become an existence akin to a sage of destiny. On Subai's side, a series of nanocores were released from his chest. Instantaneous dojo, under construction. Instantaneous generator, under construction. Mecha factory, under construction. The basic buildings were completed. However, he wondered if there were any minerals here. If so, it would be perfect to build a mine to extract some resources. Even though Subai had a lot of gold now, it wouldn't suffice against the thousands of troops. Moreover, unlocking certain units also required massive funds. What was even more frustrating was that after completing the 10th box in 10 consecutive draws, no more boxes appeared. He let the Apocalypse tank crash into firepower upgrades, armor shields, star upgrades, and spent $2,000. He also crashed into several armored vehicles, an allied mining vehicle, a hovercraft, and a V-3 rocket, none of which were the base vehicles Subai wanted. Arriving at Eve's office, he knocked on the door. It was locked. The back door is open. Come in from there. Subai was a bit confused. Why not let him enter through the front door? Instead, he was directed to the back. Upon entering the office, he saw a red-haired medieval witch wearing a sheer blue-green gauze dress. With her side profile, she was beautiful, her curves alluring, leaning against the desk. The scene was hazy and ethereal, her snow-white figure barely visible. This was the most beautiful witch of the medieval times, Triss. Do you like it? Are you Eve? Subai couldn't believe the woman before him, but the voice was unmistakably Eve's. Then, the woman at the desk turned her legs and sat up. She snapped her fingers, and her body changed again. Originally red hair has turned into jet black waves, and the outfit has changed to black leather. What about this? Yenefa. Now men on Blue Star all like it. How did you do that? Nanomaterials can change a person's appearance, which we also refer to as Z, Su, E. It's the most popular trend in nightclubs. Subai's smile grew wider. Not bad. I like hearing Subai say he likes it. Eve felt a surge of joy in her heart. Finally, she has caught him. Soon, the two lay together, whispering sweet nothings. If that's the case, just casually use some future technology. Wouldn't humanity save years of struggle? With this thought, Eve resolutely lifted her figure even higher. She leaned in closer. Subai, welcoming her approach, grabbed her arm. This made Eve instantly close her eyes. However, Subai merely examined the nanomaterial skin before letting her go. Good stuff, how much? I want to buy more for my spies. Eve, damn it. Are you a man? Why are you so eager to learn? Just as Eve felt a dark cloud forming over her head, the conversation continued. I have a question for you. Can I ask it after some intimacy? Eve was somewhat dissatisfied. No, go ahead and ask. Where do you mine resources like yours, precious metals, steel barriers, or crystal gems? As Subai asked this, he did not expect the other party to become melancholic. Ziyuan Star is an important node for humanity's colonization here. It is rich in resources with numerous precious minerals, mostly found deep underground. To the north of the base, there is a large mining site. However, we underestimated this planet. After digging to a depth of 100 meters, countless giant worms emerged. This forced us to abandon the mining site. Those worms are terrifying, with hard shells and the ability to spray toxic acid from a distance. Oh, that's great. Great? Yes, with neutral units guarding the mine, one naturally doesn't have to worry about others stealing their resources. Eve blinked her big, watery eyes, looking confused. Subai then approached the floor-to-ceiling window in the office and waved his hand. In front of him, 3 mining sites of the Rising Sun Empire emerged from the ground. Subai's mining vehicle, basking in the sunlight, also found its direction. Under the escort of armed mining vehicles, a long convoy set off towards the northern mining site of the base. Here, the entrance to the mine had been directly blown up by humans, and no worms were found. This also allows the mining vehicles to happily mine here. Dozens of mining cars passed by. The surface land had been overturned. The allied mining vehicles from the transdimensional teleportation returned first. Subai felt the resources within him continuously surging upward, astonished by the powerful resources this planet possessed. Just casually mining at the outskirts of the mining area yielded 1,200 resources per truckload. You clear the collapsed earth and get into the cave to mine, he commanded. With wealth in sight, Subai had little concern for the insect race. It was only real once it was in his hands. Indeed, the mining vehicles entered the cave. Inside, there were scattered, colorful glimmers of light. Gemstone mine. Subai could not help but feel invigorated. It had been a long time since he experienced the joy of making money. Last time on the continent of Azeroth, he had only managed to snatch a few haunted gold mines, and those of the orc race. Expenses were high, and output was low. The mining vehicles began to operate busily again. Following the perspective of the mining vehicles, Subai noticed that one of the earthen walls emitted a ghostly blue glow. He controlled an armed mining vehicle to move forward. The dirt was overturned, revealing precious crystal ore from the outer realms. Subai immediately ordered all mining vehicles to abandon the gemstone mining and focus on attacking the crystal ore. At that moment, another wall collapsed under the pressure, revealing translucent amber ore. This was the first time Subai had seen such ore, and he had no idea what the price was. So, he instructed 2 allied mining vehicles to start collecting amber ore. Soon, the mining vehicles filled a compartment with ore. Without hesitation, Subai had the 2 vehicles return to the mining site. Resources increased. 5,000. Resources increased. 5,000. Wow. This is amazing. If 1 truckload is mined, it could yield at least 50,000 resources. He turned the mining vehicles back, and all focused on the amber ore. As the vehicles continued to roll and squeeze, some green liquid began to exude from the amber ore, along with the sounds of bursting insects. Suddenly, a massive amber wall collapsed, revealing a giant insect. Its tail resembled that of a large caterpillar, continuously secreting golden mining liquid. Once this liquid was secreted, it hardened instantly, becoming the amber ore that Subai's vehicles loved to collect. Subai couldn't help but swallow. If he could bring this mineral-producing creature back, wouldn't the mining efficiency increase even more? The battle fortress moved in. The insects were mobilized and equipped inside, and everything went smoothly. Just as the battle fortress was escorting the mineral-producing creature back, a passage erupted with a massive surge of insects, launching a fierce attack on the mining vehicles. There are so many bugs, and Subai has no intention of fighting. After all, the duty of the ox cart is mining, not getting entangled with these bugs. He decided to return first and sweep through later with his army. These small monsters are simply like ants trying to stop a car. Just then, the base alarm rang again. Even Eve, who was trying to seduce Subai, returned to her original appearance. She urgently checked what was happening. Alarm, alarm. Core energy rod of the base has been separated. Overall power supply will stop in 30 seconds 29:28. What happened? Commander Eve. It was Subai's troops that stole the energy core and killed many soldiers. Additionally, the troops guarding the south, led by Hao Gul, have moved out with all their soldiers, claiming they are going to attack the Mecha Demon's lair. Her subordinates reported the current situation through a tablet. Eve quickly turned to Subai. He raised his hands with an innocent expression. The other party nodded. It can't be, he is in my office. Keep looking for clues. Search for the fuel core. As soon as this sentence was reported, the entire base lost power. Immediately, the backup power kicked in. An emergency lighting emitted a dim red glow. What is going on? Eve asked Subai. Well, a few of my subordinates stole your energy core. Subai's expression was calm, as if he were the mastermind behind normal operations. Why? They acted on their own. It has nothing to do with me. Besides, I said before coming here, my rule is that there are no rules. Do whatever you want. After hearing Su Bai's irresponsible remarks, Eve felt a bit disheartened. Looking back at her previous act of craziness, she awkwardly wished she could dig a hole to hide in. Unfortunately, all the facilities here are made of special alloys, so she couldn't dig anything. What if the mecha demon attacks again? Su Bai looked at the dim red light, and at that moment, the little woman's pitiful appearance was what he truly liked, so he couldn't help but smile. Of course, they will bear it themselves. As he spoke, all the items on the desk were knocked to the ground. In fact, Su Bai had long seen that Hao Ge had ulterior motives. The reason he tolerated his antics until now was that he knew Hao Ge had exceptional intelligence. This information was useful to Su Bai as well. Why does Su Bai know so much? The reason is simple. Don't forget, he has another title, the Lord of the Undead. Last time, before returning to the main god space, he had packed the undead troops into his stone sea. This led to an overcrowded stone sea. But that's just idle talk. Chapter 202. Helping with the bug race. Isn't that considered borrowing a knife to kill? The key point is that the farmers who built houses along with the undead tribe, as well as the monks, were all brought along. This thing, once offered at the abyssal altar, would turn into an invisible shadow. In other words, it was Su Bai's natural eavesdropping tool, much more effective than traditional spies. Unbeknownst to Hao Ge, two shadows had been following those three individuals. Everything they said was heard by Su Bai. In front of Su Bai, no one had secrets. Although Su Bai wanted Yuri X to directly control Hao Ge, he felt that this person was not that simple. The facts prove this point. This guy was deeply hidden. It was likely that he had ways to counter mind control. Therefore, Su Bai did not take any measures, but instead sent the shadows to follow and report 24/7. Hao Ge, we have stolen it. We have stolen it. The member of the demon team, named Xiao Liang, was ecstatic. Very good. Your illusionary soldiers are not that impressive, but at special times, they do have unique effects. Now we can merge them with my soldiers. Hao Ge took out a mysterious stone platform from his storage ring and placed the energy core on it. This mysterious stone platform was brought back by a warrior from the previous multiverse battlefield. When immense energy was placed on it, and a person stood on it, the energy would be transmitted into their body. The benefit of this was to increase the summoned troop strength, allowing for a continuous and endless supply of soldiers in prolonged battles, suppressing the enemy to achieve victory on the battlefield. Hao Ge looked at his current position. He was about 100 kilometers away from the base. He had explored a 100-kilometer radius ahead and found nothing unusual. For the time being, the mechanical demon gods would not attack. This position was relatively safe. If I absorb energy now, I cannot be disturbed for the next period of time. I will rely on you two to protect me. Don't worry, Hao Ge. Your safety is absolutely guaranteed. Hao Ge, rest assured, if any enemies come, we brothers will not leave this spot even if we have to die. By the way, I heard you mention that there is a parallel universe, a blue planet inhabited only by women. Can that planet's ruler belong to me? Stand your post properly. Hao Ge smacked Xiao Liang on the back of his head. He then stepped onto the stone platform and sat down. The stone platform beneath him began to emit a blue glow. Soon after, the blue light became brighter and more abundant, starting to encircle Hao Ge. With each breath, it was as if he was enveloped in mist, akin to a fantasy novel where one elevates their realm. The two guardians beside him were also dutifully performing their tasks, arranging thousands of troops in formation. Xiao Yang's troop type was the glass people, which could mimic other units they encountered. The units are replicated exactly. However, the downside is that their attack power is only 50 of the original. Yet, if used properly, they can intimidate opponents into surrendering. The leader's troops are armored behemoths with titanium alloy skeletons from the Jurassic era, possessing both defense and attack capabilities, powerful and ferocious. The reason for seeking out these two individuals is their unique troop types, and also because they are newcomers with a rebellious mindset, making them useful for his purposes. A high-energy reaction appeared in the south. Eve barely had time to fasten the first button when a fresh piece of news popped up on her computer screen. Su Bai felt somewhat disappointed. It was frustrating that something happened just as they were getting started. He decided to check the situation in the south using a spy satellite. After reviewing the information, he couldn't help but laugh. It turned out that the leader was stealing to become stronger, which was quite a challenge for him. However, upon reflection, since Xiao Liang and the leader had entered, they hadn't contributed at all. Now, with his mining vehicle being chased by a swarm of gigantic creatures, it wouldn't be too much to ask for their assistance in eliminating a few of them. With this in mind, Su Bai divided the mining vehicles into two teams. One team consisted of the Rising Sun Empire and the Soviet mining vehicles, while the other was made up of the Allied superspace mining vehicles. First, the speed of the Allied mining vehicles slowed down, allowing the Rising Sun Empire and Soviet vehicles to quickly overtake them, positioning themselves in front. Subsequently, both sides separated, while the creatures continued to bite at the rear of the Allied vehicles. After a barrage of attacks, many mining vehicles started to smoke, with one even getting destroyed. It was evident that these creatures were not easy to deal with. Otherwise, why would humanity directly seal off the mining site? It was simply because they were formidable foes. On the flat wasteland, the super space mining vehicles kicked up clouds of dust. Bored, Xiao Liang, the leader, and the others were discussing how to allocate the women of the entire planet. Look ahead, Xiao Liang. A vehicle? Is that a human vehicle here? Or is it Su Bai's vehicle? Who cares? Let's blow it up first. If it's a human vehicle, then no big deal. If it's Su Bai's, we'll apologize later. Anyway, after this breakthrough, the leader plans to eliminate Su Bai and take the captain position. As they spoke, the leader commanded his armored behemoths to prepare for an assault. Xiao Liang held him back and said with a smile, "Hold on. I've copied Su Bai's mobilized troops. They are all ranged attackers. You can charge in once we're closer." With a casual wave, Xiao Liang transformed the glass figures under the sun. Their necks twisted to the right, and with a rattle, their weapons were raised to their chests, ready to fire. Su Bai was also taken aback. Wow, this little Liang has some skills. He managed to hide so deeply. He can clone his own troops. Fortunately, this kid doesn't know much about his own troops. He actually cloned his $50 good brother. With this in mind, Su Bai recalled all the SEALs maintaining order around the base. Better safe than sorry in case little Liang gets smarter next time and clones some powerful troops. Fire. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Thousands of mobilized soldiers opened fire in unison, creating dense lines of fire on the battlefield. Under this line of fire, no creature could stand. They were all knocked down. Bullets also hit the superdimensional mining vehicles, making a ping-pong sound. Good. Blow those vehicles up. Little Liang clenched his fist, satisfied with his secretly copied mobilized soldier strength. But the next second, he heard buzzing sounds as the mining vehicles that had rushed in suddenly disappeared, leaving behind only clusters of foam-like sticky space. What is going on? Ceasefire. There was no need to ask what happened. If it weren't for Su Bai setting a trap, they would have used teleportation to escape. Still, one couldn't let their guard down. All troops, move forward. Head to where the vehicles disappeared. The glass army arrived at the spot where the mining vehicles had vanished. However, little Liang, who was unaware of the massive units of the insect race pursuing from behind, suffered a great loss. Chapter 203, Watching the Tigers Fight from the Mountains. Su Bai felt quite comfortable in the tail smoke left by the superdimensional mining vehicles. Strange heads poked out of the smoke, each unique in shape. Some heads were pitch black with 6 terrifying compound eyes. Others had bizarre mouthparts, as if they were creatures from an unknown world. Among these various forms, the monsters gradually revealed their distinctive images. Some looked like armored rhinoceros beetles, their hard shells shining with a metallic luster, their strong thighs exuding power. Others had faces resembling grasshoppers, with shells as hard as iron and well-developed leg muscles. These creatures appeared powerful, making one instinctively wary. However, there were even more astonishing monsters. Their plump bodies resembled caterpillars covered in poisonous spines. As the breeze blew by, the densely packed, needle-like poisonous spines scattered in the wind, giving an unsettling feeling. The scene before him was too bizarre and extraordinary, but one thing was certain. This group of monsters was clearly targeting Hao Ge. Mamma mia. Ah! Just as little Liang was in a daze, suddenly, his glass soldiers were hit by the first wave of fierce attacks. Everything happened so quickly, almost in the blink of an eye. The enemy's insect troops swept in like a black whirlwind, rapidly infiltrating the mobilized soldiers' camp, unleashing a bloody massacre. Some caterpillars raised their tails and sprayed strong acid from their rear. The acid rained down like arrows on the mobilized soldiers. In an instant, many brothers were hit. The next moment, a nauseating stench filled the air as their bodies, eroded by the strong acid, instantly turned into pools of green liquid. Counterattack! Quickly, counterattack! Xiaoyang shouted hoarsely, as if waking from a dream. The mobilized soldiers, snapping back to reality, immediately responded and began firing wildly. These glass figures disguised as mobilized soldiers were indeed an extremely cunning and treacherous type of troop. Although they only restored 50 of the mobilized soldiers' combat power, they could still pose a significant threat to the insect race. The sound of AK-47 gunfire echoed continuously, sweeping through the enemy. Groups of enemies fell to the ground in response. Meanwhile, the juice flowing from the dead insects seemed like a curse from the abyss, emanating a nauseating stench and a strong corrosive aura. This liquid spread like a black flood, bringing endless destruction wherever it went. Many unfortunate mobilized soldiers splashed by this liquid immediately felt a piercing pain. They were horrified to see their skin beginning to bubble, smoke, and then visibly erode and melt away. The terrifying scene resembled a candle being lit, as their bodies gradually turned into puddles of sticky liquid, merging with the ground around them. Some tried to wipe it away with their hands, but that only made matters worse. Their fingers were corroded, followed by their palms and arms. Quickly use your skills, Captain. Support. Support. Xiaoyang fumbled. The captain kicked Xiaoyang aside. Stop being so indecisive. Let your soldiers make way. On the battlefield, the glass figures retreated, creating a path in the middle, splitting the formation in two. The armored Tyrannosaurus charged out like a cannonball. This Tyrannosaurus was covered with a thick layer of mechanical armor that glinted coldly. Its teeth were crafted from super strong metal, capable of easily tearing through steel. It was a perfect blend of biology and machinery. With a deafening roar, the powerful armored Tyrannosaurus had plunged into the enemy ranks, viciously tearing at the vile insects. Its immense biting force was astonishing. With just a gentle bite, it could crush the enemy's hard shell. As another furious howl echoed, the previously chaotic battlefield suddenly became calm. Everyone was shocked by the terrifying power of the armored Tyrannosaurus, silently observing the ruler of the battlefield. Even when the acidic blood of the insect splattered onto the armored Tyrannosaurus, it caused no damage to its sturdy armor. No wonder those who can enter the multiverse battlefield are all skilled individuals. Even Subai couldn't help but commend Xiaoliang. See that? This is what power looks like. Are you still arguing with me about that blue planet full of women? Xiaoliang felt a bit defeated but remained unconvinced. Rubbing his rear where the captain had kicked him. You think your armor is strong? I have it too. The retreating glass being quickly stopped, concentrating all its energy on the armored Tyrannosaurus that was in battle. In less than a minute, the glass being, which initially resembled a mobilized soldier, transformed rapidly into a massive armored Tyrannosaurus. Your troops are strong, but now I am strong too. Armored Tyrannosaurus. Bite down on this group of insects. The battlefield was filled with the clash of dinosaurs and insects. Although Xiao Liang's armored Tyrannosaurus was only half as powerful as the original, the sheer number of glass beings made up for the difference. While the two were wreaking havoc on the battlefield, a gigantic figure slowly moved into position behind the insect swarm. It was an enormous worm. The upper body of the worm was small, but its lower body was surprisingly large. Next to this giant worm, several male insects were continuously breeding with it. Before long, the giant worm raised its tail. Boom, boom, boom. Dozens of giant eggs were launched in a parabolic arc, crashing into the cluster of armored tyrannosaurs. The giant eggs exploded, and countless tiny black insects quickly latched onto the armored tyrannosaurs. These black, dense insects began to gnaw indiscriminately at the seams of the armored tyrannosaurs. In no time, the once dominant armored tyrannosaurs collapsed onto the ground, leaving only metal armor and white bones behind, as all the flesh was devoured. Wow, these insects are ruthless, someone exclaimed. Could it be that our plan was discovered by Subai? He sent these insects to take us out. Otherwise, we should retreat. We can't win this fight. But with how good here, if we retreat, he'll be turned into a skeleton in no time. Subai also noticed the situation here. He hadn't anticipated that these little insects would be so fierce. It was like ants devouring an elephant. If Xiao Liang and the captain ran now, those insects would still have to clean up afterward. That would be too much trouble. So, Subai carefully observed the armored tyrannosaurs controlled by these individuals. As semi-mechanical life forms, they should withstand temporal and spatial transmission. A slight smile appeared at the corner of Subai's mouth. He smiled and said, "Let me help you with the help of time-space teleportation." Chapter 204. Surrounding the way to rescue Zhao? No, Subai was just using time-space teleportation to stir things up. He transferred the combat power of his allies to the enemy's rear. This was also a common tactic in the Red Alert game. Subai didn't think much about it anymore. He clicked on the armored behemoth that was clustered the most in the enemy formation, ready to teleport. At that moment, an unexpected situation occurred. Sounds of gunfire erupted from within the base again. The energy towers and defenders set up around the base began to unleash their firepower. At the same time, Commander Eve received the latest news. The mechanical demon was attacking again. Not good. The power outage on our side has been discovered by the enemy. They are taking advantage of this gap to strike at us. All soldiers, get to the high platform at the base perimeter and prepare to defend. The emergency alarm rang out. The various soldiers who were still active inside the base immediately became alert. They rushed to the armory, donned their kinetic armor and pulse guns, and headed to the outer walls of the base for defense. Subai frowned. It was already chaotic enough. Why was there more trouble? So, Subai commanded Sato Takura and Park Etian to engage in battle and ascended to the observation platform himself. He gazed into the distance. This time, the enemy had deployed so many forces, especially the enormous land cruisers that were covered in ion cannons. Previously, just one of these demons was enough to give Subai a hard time. It took a combination of the Iron Curtain and Terror robots to take it down. Now, dozens of them had appeared at once, and the enemy's battleships were densely arranged, clearly preparing to concentrate their superior forces for a decisive victory. It seemed like a tough battle ahead. However, Subai thought to himself that fortunately, he hadn't used the time-space teleportation yet. Let the swarm deal with these colossal ships. After reselecting time-space teleportation, he pressed the confirm button. Instantly, those land cruisers were enveloped in a massive layer of bubbles. At that moment, Some mechanical demons on the patrol ships sensed the abnormal situation and quickly began to disassemble. However, contrary to their expectations, the demons wrapped tightly in the space, and time bubbles were completely immobilized. In the blink of an eye, only traces of bubbles remained at the original spot. Soon after, those dozens of enormous battleships were teleported to the back of the swarm battlefield, where the giant bugs were breeding in their hatching grounds. The insect eggs released by these giant bugs were extremely powerful, and now was the best time to eliminate them. With a loud bang, several large insects were crushed on the spot, bursting into a disgusting puddle of flesh. Dark green liquid splattered everywhere, emitting a foul odor. The insect swarm, which was fiercely engaged in battle, immediately shifted their attack targets upon witnessing this. A group of giant insects with armored wings, capable of flight, brandished their powerful scythe-like forelimbs and launched a frenzied assault on the mechanical behemoth. At that moment, the ion cannon on the massive warship also began a fierce counterattack. Bright arcs of electricity illuminated the sky as massive artillery shells thundered down upon the swarm. Each shell was immensely powerful, and the shockwaves from the explosions created terrifying waves of blood and flesh. The insects were instantly torn apart by the overwhelming energy, their limbs and innards scattering everywhere, transforming the battlefield into a bloody and terrifying hell. The lethality of these high-tech weapons was astonishing. It was a one-sided massacre. The insect swarm stood no chance against such an onslaught. What the heck? Reinforcements? Could it be the special forces sent by Captain Su? At that moment, Xiao Liang and the commander saw a turning point in the battlefield and were overjoyed. However, a wave of guilt surged in their hearts. Captain Su must have assessed the situation here and dispatched a special unit. The captain had been so good to them, yet they had harbored rebellious thoughts. With a loud explosion, the distant ion cannon struck the retreating formation of armored tyrants, killing dozens more. The blast startled the two, causing them to duck and cover. Damn it, it's not reinforcements. The mechanical behemoth is coming. That bastard. I doubt the captain would be so kind as to send troops to save us. It turned out to be a stronger wave of enemies approaching. The two felt their fate was grim. As the saying goes, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. This sudden arrival of the mechanical behemoth was undoubtedly the oriole, while they were the weakest cicadas. Their emotions quickly shifted from cursing the insect swarm to hoping they could hold on a little longer. But in reality, the mechanical behemoth was wreaking havoc. Deep in the planet, two eyes suddenly opened. Yet another detestable outsider. The insect army is evolving towards the ion direction. The voice that spoke was that of a woman, proud and deep. This woman was the Blade Queen, who controlled the heart of the insect race. Mysterious pheromones transmitted through the soil to the feet of the insect army. Soon, all the insects began to evolve and mutate. Their once heavy shells became even thicker, while some transformed into soft insulators. At the same time, the attacks from the ion cannons became less fierce. What used to annihilate a large area with a single shot now struggled to take down these creatures. Why not use the super weapon directly against the human race? The super weapon would destroy the geomagnetic field, affecting our future colonization efforts. There's new information. It seems that this planet is home not only to humans, but also to other species. Any race is as insignificant as plankton in front of our mechanical deities. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed through the air. The ground trembled violently, as if unable to withstand an immense force, leading to massive cracks and collapses. In the center of this collapsed area, the once unstoppable gigantic land battleship, made of mechanical deities, lost its balance and fell into a deep chasm. At the same time, large groups of burrowing creatures surged in from all directions. They opened their fangs and unleashed countless deadly acidic toxins, pouring down like a torrential rain, quickly filling the entire chasm. These potent acids were highly corrosive, capable of easily penetrating metal and rock, delivering devastating blows to the enemies. The attack range was vast, stretching for miles, leaving nothing but desolation in its wake. Subai observed the battlefield calmly, a hint of surprise rising in his heart. He initially thought those creatures were among the weakest in this world. However, the reality proved that these seemingly insignificant beings possessed astonishing adaptability and evolutionary capabilities. Faced with powerful electrical attacks, they were able to adjust swiftly and successfully defend themselves, causing the enemy's offensive to lose its effectiveness in an instant. The once mighty battleship crumbled under this primitive yet effective assault, sinking into an endless abyss. Meanwhile, the mechanical deity forces at Subai's base were once again forced to retreat. Clearly, the mechanical deity faction was worried about being caught in a pincer attack between the insect race and the human race. Therefore, they wisely chose to temporarily fall back to a relatively safe area to avoid unnecessary losses. At this moment, the situation on the battlefield became increasingly perplexing. Analyze DNA. Interstellar species, native cosmic organisms, possessing strong evolutionary abilities. On board the starship, the mechanical deities were analyzing the current situation. Insects with an intelligence level even more primitive than humans must be dealt with decisively. The outer hatches of the starship slowly opened, revealing dark cannon muzzles. Hell paratroopers, deploy! With a command, the starship launched missile pods into the orbit. They broke through the atmosphere at an astonishing speed, falling from the sky like meteors and crashing heavily onto the battlefield, accompanied by a series of loud explosions. Countless creatures were reduced to debris in this sudden and unforeseen disaster. Hundreds of such capsules fell densely like raindrops, instantly causing mass casualties among the insect horde on the battlefield. However, the actions of these capsules did not stop there. Upon hitting the ground, they swiftly underwent a transformation. The pointed tips at the bottom instantly turned into high-speed rotating drill bits. The powerful drilling force violently hurled the surrounding soil into the air, resembling a mudstorm. Surprisingly, these capsules drilled into the underground nests of the insect horde like ground-penetrating missiles without hesitation. Soon after, the hatches slowly opened, and a group of mechanical warriors armed with flame guns stepped out. These mechanical beings were tall and robust, well-equipped. The flame guns in their hands spewed fierce flames, turning the surrounding insects to ashes. Meanwhile, on the other side, Hao Gu also awakened. He opened his bright eyes, and a surge of extraordinary energy leaked from his body. Xiao Liang and the captain were already stunned, watching their leader finally achieve his power, regaining some hope. Leader, did it work? Hao Gu sneered. With a wave of his hand, an army of 100,000 soldiers filled the battlefield. The powerful energy from the core allowed Hao Gu to break through the boundaries of humanity, becoming the man who summoned the most troops in history. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. The insects are just bugs. The mechanical warriors are the mantis, and I am the ultimate winner, the oriole. Xiao Liang quickly flattered. Well said. Hao Gu, what is Su Bai even worth? A slap landed on Xiao Liang's head. You and your big mouth. Once I wipe out these two races, Su Bai will be left all alone. Dealing with him will be a piece of cake. Soldiers, attack. The battlefield instantly became even more chaotic. The mechanical warriors, the hellish paratroopers, the infinitely evolving insect horde led by the Blade Queen, and the transcendent Hao Gu created a scene reminiscent of a historical epic. Su Bai watched the chaos unfold with amusement, recalling a phrase from General Li Yunlong that resonated with the current situation. The Northwest is in complete disarray. The situation now was likely similar. Let them fight. Let them fight. Constantly upgrading the era of war. It would be best if they all perish. I'll collect their corpses myself. Demon King mecha construction complete. Steel Ronin construction complete. Su Bai turned to look at the rows of massive mechas parked at the base, nodding in satisfaction. The insects trapped in their caves were continuously being burned by the mechanical warriors. The Blade Queen gritted her teeth. Evolve from me towards fire-resistant mutations. At the same time, with the addition of Hao, the mechanical demon was caught in a pincer attack. Continue. Increase our forces. All mechanical demons on the distant star moved forward. In an instant, the casualties among the three factions on the battlefield grew larger, and the fighting intensified. Each side had bet their maximum stakes. No one dared to back down. Otherwise, all their previous investments would vanish into thin air, resulting in total defeat. However, no one knew that the true protagonist of the war had not joined the battlefield. He was experiencing the exotic charm brought by a medieval witch. Witch, no wonder you were burned back in the day. It turns out you really do burn. Mr. Su Bai, I've peeled a lychee for you. Open your mouth, huh? A crystal-clear lychee was placed into Su Bai's mouth, juice splattering everywhere. Not bad. It's really sweet. Hao's ground forces, represented by the elephant warriors, were turned into pulp by the enemy's massive warships. Xiao Liang looked disheveled. Another red cherry was placed into Su Bai's mouth. It was a bit sour. Contact the starship. The Hell paratroopers are under strong acidic attack from the enemy, and the acid corrosion rate has increased by 200. Hold on. The second batch of Hell paratroopers will arrive soon. Mr. Su Bai, this red apple is also very tasty. Have a bite. Crunch. Chewing. Not bad. It's quite sweet and indeed crunchy. I like this. A series of crisp crunching sounds filled the air as hundreds of bugs were crushed into pulp by the land cruiser. Damn mechanical demons. I will personally lead the charge today. The Blade Queen donned her insect armor. Behind her, several magical ancient wings sprouted from her back. After enjoying a feast and a full-service massage, Su Bai stretched lazily, observing the current battlefield situation. There had been quite a few deaths among the three factions. Most importantly, no reinforcements were joining the battlefield anymore. It was time for the final act of the Three Kingdoms drama. Standing atop the high walls of the base, Su Bai waved his hand and released the skill Rebirth of the Undead. A new faction quickly rose on the battlefield. The Undead Army, composed of glass beings, armored behemoths, giant elephant warriors, and swarms of insects, began their aimless slaughter. Meanwhile, the gates of the base opened, with grizzly tanks, rhino tanks, and light beam tanks leading the charge. Behind them, massive figures advanced, each step causing tremors. This was the strongest armored force of the Rising Sun Empire, the Ghost King Mecha and the Steel Ronin. Boom, boom, boom. Outside the chaotic battlefield, another mechanized force rushed in. All the cannons turned their direction, unleashing a barrage of saturated strikes. Chapter 206. The Demon King Mech is promoted to Demon King X, with extraordinary attributes. Brother How, we can't hold on any longer. Useless things. How did my mighty 100,000 elephants army end up as the weakest side in this realm? Where is the Shu Kingdom? Come and ally with me. Boom. A few cannon shots rang out. The last elephant herd was turned into minced meat. Alas, Brother Hal felt disheartened. Just moments ago, he thought he was the mantis catching the cicada, while the yellow sparrow was behind him. Yet, he ended up being the first to be defeated among the three forces, becoming the weakest one that could only whimper like a cicada. No, I still want to be the overlord of Western Shu. Boom. Brother Hal unleashed the strongest combat power from the Stone Sea. It was a desperate battle. After all, that energy core could be depleted by the 100,000 elephants. With a bang, the wound on his abdomen that had just healed burst open again. Energy leaked out, forming a ghostly blue flame suspended in the air. Brother Hao coughed up blood, reaching forward with one hand, trying to reclaim the energy he had spent so long refining. However, the pain made him falter, and he couldn't touch it at all. What is that ghostly blue flame? Subai also noticed the small anomaly on the battlefield. Demon King Mech. Come over here and take a look. Subai deployed a Demon King Mech and approached the energy seed that Brother Hao was refining. In the next moment, the energy seed seemed to be looking for a powerful mech to protect it, swiftly diving into Subai's Demon King Mech instantly. The previously ordinary Demon King Mech began to emit strands of red energy from the gaps in its metallic armor, as if its power had exploded in an instant. A massive energy storm surged forth from within the Demon King Mech. Boom. A deafening sound echoed. The energy seed refined by Brother Hao was absorbed by the Demon King Mech. Such good fortune? Subai couldn't help but laugh, clutching his stomach. The energy source that Brother Hao had painstakingly refined had actually ended up in his Demon King Mech. Now, how high were the mech's attributes? Subai couldn't help but take a glance. Ghost King Mecha, Strength, 50,000. Agility, 25,000. Defense, 100,000. Health, 500,000. Skill, Charge / unleashes all body strength, advancing 1 kilometer forward. Releasing energy that causes energy explosions around. Damage, 100,000. Skill, Atomic Ray releases a high-temperature atomic ray, delivering devastating strikes to enemy targets. Damage, 80,000. Duration, 5 minutes. Cooldown, 10 minutes. What the heck? Isn't this damage explosive? Previously, the Ghost King only had 2 skills, Barbaric Charge and Laser Ray. The damage didn't even reach 10,000. Now it's incredible. Not only have the attributes increased by dozens of times, but the skills have also been upgraded. This is thanks to constant refining by Brother Hao, which allowed me to accidentally obtain this collective energy spark. Boom. The Steel Wanderer and the Ghost King charged into the enemy's massive formation together, joining the battle. The mechanical demons and the insect race both exerted their utmost strength in a fierce fight. Caught off guard by this sudden new force, some mecha demons immediately split off to engage with Subai's legion. This was a fierce clash of machines, a peak confrontation of power. The formidable Steel Wanderer wielded several extraordinary skills, gripping a radiant and intimidating light blade, the Guangong sword. It danced like a storm, overwhelming in momentum, drawing attention. Suddenly, the Steel Wanderer leaped, striking the enemy like a flash of lightning. With a roar, 34/ship sword. Cheers! The light blade fell with the force of thunder, striking the land cruiser behind with a mighty blow. In an instant, accompanied by a deafening roar, the massive cruiser was split in half. Following that, an earth-shattering explosion resonated through the skies. The cruiser shattered in the middle, debris flying everywhere, flames soaring. Meanwhile, the Ghost King Mecha smashed a bug with a punch. Juices splattered. A laser swept across, leaving a deep scar over a kilometer on the ground, smoke billowing. A large bug was sent flying, shattered to pieces. Boom. 2 more bugs pounced. The Ghost King kicked one to pieces. In no time, the Steel Wanderer was unstoppable, charging through like an indomitable blade, overwhelming everything in its path. Where did this troop come from? So fierce. Concentrate firepower to prioritize attacking the insect race. Eliminate the rear threats, then focus on this troop. The Blade Queen watched as her swarm was ruthlessly toyed with by the ghostly mech, feeling a surge of frustration. Her chest heaved with anger, and she was dizzy with rage. Damn it, another troop has arrived. Are they mechanical demons, or from another faction? No matter, before dealing with external threats, She must first secure her own territory and eliminate the mechanical demon's forces. Boom. Amidst a thunderous roar, the once solid ground suddenly collapsed as if torn apart by an irresistible force. Following this, a colossal beetle, astonishingly large, burst forth from the ground. Its body stretched over 100 meters long, resembling a moving mountain radiating an unparalleled aura of authority. On top of this giant beetle stood a poised and striking female figure, the Blade Queen, with her head held high and a piercing gaze. She exuded an overwhelming presence, as if the entire world were under her control. With a wave of her arm, she issued a commanding order that resonated deeply. All troops, heed my command. Eliminate all mechanical demons. Simultaneously, the mechanical demons sprang into action. They quickly regrouped their forces, executing a series of complex maneuvers with astonishing speed and coordination. These mechanical beings operated like a battalion of well-trained soldiers, flawlessly synchronizing their movements. Even more impressive was their ability to continuously combine and assemble like Lego blocks. Each mechanical demon was like a puzzle piece, cleverly connecting and forming a more massive and powerful entity. Ultimately, this gigantic creation composed of countless mechanical demons revealed itself to all. Towering over 100 meters, it shimmered with a cold metallic glow, resembling a mechanical deity from the future, casting an overwhelming presence over the battlefield. The two colossal figures faced each other, like ice and fire, irreconcilable opposites. The chapter continues with the insect swarm and the ultimate mechanical demon unleashing their full combat strength. With each step, the two titans shook the ground beneath them, sending smaller creatures flying. Some were crushed underfoot, turned to pulp. With a thunderous sound, the mechanical deity shot across the sky like a meteor, delivering a fist of unimaginable force. This blow contained an endless well of power and fury, crashing down on the massive beetle covered in spikes. In an instant, the world changed. The heavens and earth trembled. The shockwave from the punch swept through like a fierce storm, even dispersing the clouds in the sky. The battered giant beetle emitted a sharp, piercing screech. After a muffled grunt, it quickly reacted. With those enormous pincers covered in hard, spiky shells, it swiftly clamped down on the waist of the mechanical war god. These pincers not only had an indestructible exterior, but could also secrete a potent acid. Once caught, the consequences would be dire. A series of chilling screeches echoed as sparks flew, metal grinding against shell, creating dazzling bursts of light. The mechanical war god clearly did not anticipate such a formidable opponent. Without hesitation, he raised his gravity-enhanced fist equipped with a jet device high above his head. Then, he quickly brought his hands together, tightly clenching his fist, and with all his might, he struck downwards. With this action, a shockwave more powerful than before erupted, spreading out like towering ocean waves. The weaker units on the battlefield could not withstand this immense force, being blown away several meters, some even shattered into countless pieces. Xiao Yang and the captain, who were transporting Hao Gu away from the battlefield, were directly blown away by this tremendous force, rolling out several dozen meters. Meanwhile, Hao Gu, lying on the medical bed, was tossed forward along with the bed, crashing into a flying mech demon. The sound of bones breaking echoed, and Hao Gu suffered severe secondary injuries. Subai was also captivated by this earth-shattering battle. He never expected to witness such powerful combat in his lifetime. This spectacular scene surpassed even lightning storms or nuclear weapons, showcasing the struggle of power against power, each punch landing with visceral impact and shock. However, Subai was not worried about these two giants attacking his base because the entity known as Ghost King X, who had acquired the power of the Fire Seed, had yet to demonstrate its strength. Let them fight, continue to fight. The purpose of igniting this war is for you to slaughter each other. I'll just sit back and watch the show. On the starship, messages kept appearing on the display. Mechanical War God, left leg has lost contact. System diagnostics indicate 350 neural signals have been severed. Left arm energy jet damaged. One bad news after another kept popping up. Damn bugs. I never expected them to be this powerful. On the map, another force lurked, watching with intent. Perhaps conquering Jiyuan Star was a mistake. With the human race still intact, we cannot strike against them. Otherwise, we will be caught in a two-front war. Then we can ally with the humans to eliminate the insect race. Will they agree? Offer them some benefits. On the other side, stay steady. Quickly get the worker ants to repair the wounds. At this moment, the Blade Queen was also at a loss. As the ruler of this planet and the queen of the insect race, she surprisingly could not gain a decisive advantage in this battle. The opposing mechanical giant was simply too strong. If it weren't for her thick-shelled giant beetle, she would have been turned into mush long ago. Now, in the distance, there was another force stirring, humans. Although they had currently withdrawn from the battlefield and had not joined either side, or perhaps aimed to eliminate both, the human side could potentially be a cooperative ally. Initially, the surface life of these humans had no interaction with the insect race, and had coexisted peacefully until they encroached on her territory to plunder the nutrients of the mother insects, which then made them enemies that needed to be expelled. If a certain number of mother insects were given to them, it was uncertain whether it could lead to cooperation between both sides. Otherwise, given the current situation, the insect race would definitely be completely annihilated by the mechanical deities. At this point, the Blade Queen severed her connection with the giant beetle. A giant moth carried her toward the human base. Alert! Alert! Enemy air power detected. Quantity: 1, not a single one should be spared. Eliminate them. Eve waved her hand and issued the order. Subai quickly interrupted. Let them in. Why? They are insects. What if they come to our base to cause destruction? Subai sneered. Just now, the mechanical deity race sent me a message requesting cooperation to jointly deal with the insect race and share the distant star. I believe the arrival of the insect race this time is also for this purpose. If that's the case, there is something to work with. The people in the base were on high alert, gripping their guns tightly, and brought the Blade Queen to Subai's room. The Silent Queen let out a cold laugh. How weak you humans are, even afraid of insects. Everyone was taken aback. The Queen did not speak, but a strong scent gathered in their nostrils, forming this sentence. Could it be? This is the insect pheromone. Subai was not surprised. He ordered the soldiers to leave. With the strength of a 4th-tier gene lock, a mere insect queen posed no threat to him. Subai carefully examined the insect queen before him, a feeling of indescribable sensation swelling within him. Her beauty was exquisite, like a finely crafted artwork. The queen's figure was elongated, her proportions perfect, with every line just right. However, what was most striking was her hair, which was composed of the segmented limbs of insects. Dense and intricate, they covered her head, forming a unique landscape. Her body was wrapped in many hard insect shells that shimmered with a strange light, seemingly protecting her. However, her wheat-colored thighs and several other parts of her body were not covered by shells, appearing firm and full. This left her skin exposed, showcasing a different kind of charm. The visual impact was captivating, providing Subai with a taste he had never experienced before. Chapter 208. Both sides were at their wits' end, pleading for Subai's assistance. If ordinary human beauties resembled dumplings, the beauties of the elven race were like buns. The Blade Queen, on the other hand, was a delicious meat zongzi. Though all wrapped around juicy, tender meat, the outer material shifted from flour to rice. Nevertheless, the texture remained equally enticing. A golden, alluring aroma wafted into Subai's nostrils, reminiscent of honey. I, as the Blade Queen, have come to propose an alliance with you against the mechanical demon god, she stated. Subai chuckled, plopping down onto the soft sofa and crossing his legs. Why should I ally with you? What's in it for me? After the alliance, the surface territory will belong to you, while the underground territory will belong to me. We shall not interfere with each other. Subai found it amusing, almost causing him stomach pain. Even at this point, they dared to propose conditions in front of him. What are you laughing at? Look at this. A holographic screen projected a formidable mechanical demon god. Respected human commander, I believe any rational person would not accept such foolish conditions, the mechanical demon god remarked, facing Subai while ignoring the Blade Queen's comment. What do you mean? The Blade Queen's expression turned hostile. The mechanical demon god continued addressing Subai. What do you think? My proposal of splitting the star of Ziyuan equally is much more reasonable. Besides, we are higher intelligent beings. Dealing with us is more civilized. Upon hearing that the mechanical demon god also intended to ally with Subai, the Blade Queen's mouth twitched slightly, feeling utterly stunned. Their thoughts were surprisingly aligned. After listening to the nearly identical conditions proposed by both sides, Subai shook his head. I mean, what is the point of simply forming an alliance? Don't you want to offer me some benefits? He continued. Furthermore, we could continue fighting among the three of us if needed. While it was reasonable for Subai to ask for some benefits, being so direct seemed a bit too blunt. Seeing that neither the mechanical demon god nor the Blade Queen responded, Subai spoke again. As symbols of civilization, don't you mechanical demon gods share any technology? Of course not. As long as we form an alliance, we will provide advanced weapon technology. Advanced weapons? Subai's interest was piqued. What kind of technology are you talking about? It's our most powerful weapon currently in use, the plasma cannon, which has proven its effectiveness on the battlefield. You can see its strength. Hearing the conditions set by the mechanical deity, Subai couldn't help but be taken aback. He didn't expect that the mech would offer the corresponding technology for their main battle weapon. If the plasma technology could be applied to the advanced magnetic tanks, it might truly enhance their capabilities. Additionally, miniaturized weapons could also allow magnetic infantry to use them. Perhaps the magnetic ships from the previous conflict could also be equipped with this technology. One must admit that the mechanical deity is investing heavily to win this war. Of course, this also reflects Subai's recognition of the powerful forces of the human race on the battlefield. If someone like Hao Gu were in charge, they would definitely not attract the attention of these two races. Seeing that Su Bai did not rush to respond, the mechanical deity continued, "Make your decision quickly. You must know that you are establishing ties with a civilization, not with that lowly, shameless insect beside you." This remark instantly infuriated the proud Blade Queen. "Are you even a civilization, mechanical deity? I see no evidence of that. If the human race is similar to us, then we are much closer to each other. After all, we are both living beings, while you are nothing but cold machines." The words were sharp and confrontational. "One cannot say that. We can provide more advanced technology. While you foolish insects can offer nothing, strength speaks for itself." The mech deity coldly retorted, neither side giving an inch. "Rest assured, Insect Queen, the human race will definitely stand on the side of our civilization." The Blade Queen did not continue to argue with the mechanical deity but turned to Su Bai and said, "Human, you must not be deceived by these silicon-based life forms. You and I share the same source and ancestry as carbon-based life forms. We are the most compatible parties." As she spoke, the Blade Queen forcefully pressed Su Bai's hand against her chest without his consent, allowing him to feel her strong heartbeat. "How about that? We are also living beings with hearts. Therefore, choosing us is the most correct path. Moreover, we will provide you with preferential treatment that the mechanical deity cannot offer. As long as you ally with us, I will give you many mother insects. You need their secretions for extraction, right? This should be something you very much need, or you wouldn't have clashed with us over it in the first place. You must understand that the secretions of the mother insect are the source of food for countless insects. We would rather go hungry than not provide you with the resources you need." After hearing the conditions set by the Blade Queen, Su Bai was taken aback. He was naturally aware of the value of the amber mine. That load of, or could provide 50,000 resources. If he couldn't gather resources properly in this world, once he arrived at the next barren world, he would find it hard to replenish his supplies, putting him in a difficult position where he couldn't mass-produce troops. For a moment, both sides' conditions made Su Bai hesitate. Seeing Su Bai's indecision, the mechanical demon god became furious. The despicable insect race. It's hard to believe how those disgusting creatures managed to manipulate the human race. It seems our powerful mechanical war god hasn't intimidated you enough. In the distance, the mechanical war god, who was in a stalemate, launched a tremendous strike. This hit directly dented the giant beetle's strong, hard exoskeleton, causing green liquid to spray out. The Blade Queen remained unfazed and coldly replied, "Who will win is still uncertain." As she spoke, the giant beetle's pincers increased their force. The sound of metal cracking echoed as its powerful forelimbs completely crushed the waist of the mechanical demon god, leaving only 13 connections intact. Just as tensions escalated, Xiao Liang and the captain dragged the barely alive Hao Gu over. "Hao Gu is dying. You have medicine. Save him." Su Bai was speechless. This guy Hao Gu brought this upon himself. They were in the middle of a negotiation, so why did these three come over to cause chaos? Just as he was about to have his men roll up a mat to throw the dying Hao Gu into a mass grave, he was surprised to find Hao Gu gripping Su Bai's pant leg tightly. "Save me. Bring me back to life, and I'll tell you a shocking secret." Chapter 209. The conditions you offered are great. I want them all. What should I do? A secret? Su Bai used a recovery item exchanged from the main god to stabilize Hao Gu's life. "Alright, speak. This is an exceptionally powerful ability. Mastering it means you can freely change and combine your troop types." Su Bai became interested. This guy was finally going to confess something important. However, when it came to the crucial point, Hao Gu's eyes were filled with hatred as he looked at the mechanical demon god and the Blade Queen. "I'm not willing to accept this. I was already on the verge of mastering my skills. It's all because of these two that I ended up in this situation. Before I tell you this secret, you must promise me to eliminate both the insect race and the mechanical demon god." The Blade Queen let out a cold laugh. "As a human lord, you actually have subordinates who hide secrets from you. Such a situation wouldn't occur among our insect race. I suggest dealing with such people directly." The mechanical demon god also agreed with this viewpoint. There are actually units hiding data, which is a major taboo in data sharing. This can lead to data loss, confusion in circulation, and errors. It is recommended to clear it out directly. Regarding what Hao said, Su Bai believes it. This guy, upon entering the battlefield for the first time, already knew to steal the energy core from the human base for refining. He must know some information that others are unaware of. This information is something even Sato Takara doesn't know. Therefore, Hao cannot die. Su Bai then stretched and stood up from the soft sofa, looking around at everyone with a smile. "Everyone, what if I want everything from your three families? What should we do?" The mechanical demon god responded first. "That's impossible." The Blade Queen replied similarly. "You are too greedy." Hao was furious. "Kill? Just kill them all." But what they didn't know was that Su Bai had the ability to obtain all three items. A flash appeared on his chest, and the second Yuri X, which had been cloned, appeared in front of Su Bai, easily controlling Hao, who had damaged all his life-saving items. At the same time, Subai stepped forward and pulled the Blade Queen into his embrace. What are you doing? This sudden attack startled the Blade Queen, even though she was cold and unfeeling. Of course, Subai didn't give her a chance to say a second word and instead pulled her in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, forcibly turning her head to whisper in her ear, "Didn't you want to see the mechanical demon god fail? Now I will fulfill your wish." Then, Subai said to Yuri X, "You take care of the interrogation of Hao. Don't let him die." "Yes, my respected commander." Seeing this, the mechanical demon god was furious. "Human leader Subai, are you going to ally with the insect race? What do you think?" Subai replied, "In that case, we have nothing more to say. Just know that you have lost the ion cannon and will also lose the opportunity to grasp the future." The projection turned off. The Blade Queen was delighted. "Are you willing to ally with me? But you just said you wanted everything from the three families? What does that mean?" Subai didn't want to answer that question. "Just open what you need to open for me. Cooperate well, and keep your eyes forward without looking back." While speaking, he had already commanded the Ghost King X, who had the spark, to join the battle on both sides. The reason Subai arranged this was simple. All of Hao's life-saving items were damaged, and now he could only spill everything without any bargaining power. On the other hand, the ion cannon was indeed a good thing. But for now, it couldn't help on the battlefield since the Insect Queen's bugs would continually evolve. Resistance has now been generated against ion energy, rendering it largely ineffective. However, it still holds value as a research reserve. If some of these ion cannons can be dismantled and handed over to the versatile figure, it should prove useful. As for the queen of the insect race, her personal attendance at the meeting makes forming an alliance with her the safest choice for our protagonist. She herself is also a nice gift and brings a sense of novelty. "What do you need me to cooperate with?" The Blade Queen still looks bewildered. "You are the queen of the insect race with command authority, so of course, you will cooperate in battle." Peering through the glass floor-to-ceiling window into the distance, a certain entity swiftly approached the towering mechanical deity. The mechanical giant was furious. "A mere human dares to show off in front of me. Can the neurons in the left foot still move?" 3675 neurons in the left foot are normal. Lift the left foot and crush the opponent's false machinery. Even though the mechanical deity was still in a standoff with the giant beetle, the remaining neurons could still support the movement of its left foot. The enormous left foot rose, blocking out the light, and then came crashing down. The earth trembled as a powerful shockwave swept through, sending dust and debris flying. It struck directly against the Blade Queen's glass window, who was watching from a distance. "Your machinery is too small and too weak to compete with him. Show your true strength." The Blade Queen furrowed her brow. Hearing this, the protagonist smirked, feeling a bit dissatisfied. "You think my entity is small? Just wait and see its prowess on the battlefield." A gasp escaped the Blade Queen as she instinctively covered her mouth with both hands, not for any particular reason, but because, as the dust settled, she saw that the entity had actually withstood that earth-shattering stomp. So resilient. The protagonist's machinery was even tougher than the mechanical giantess. This unexpected situation also caught the mechanical deity off guard. "Shift balance. Transfer all weight to the left foot. Crush it." Understood. The massive mechanical deity began to tilt, concentrating its entire weight on the left side, aiming to apply even greater pressure to crush the entity. But in the next moment, the powerful force unleashed by the entity shocked everyone. The entity raised its proud head, its eyes glowing red. A deafening roar echoed, as if the entire world trembled in response. Immediately after, a terrifying beam of energy erupted forth like a volcanic explosion, containing boundless power. Wherever it passed, the seemingly indestructible armor melted away like butter, without any resistance. Time seemed to stand still. In a fleeting moment of less than a second, it felt like an eternity. This beam of energy pierced through the body of the mech warrior at an astonishing speed, penetrating from the soles of its feet all the way to the calf bones, creating a direct through-and-through effect. However, that was not the end. The beam suddenly swung sharply, like an incredibly sharp giant sword, splitting a massive piece of alloy apart. Accompanied by a deafening sound of metal fracturing, the incredibly tough alloy instantly crumbled, completely separating from the mech warrior's calf. After this breathtaking scene unfolded, the originally stout calf, which stood several meters tall, was unexpectedly sheared off by half in the blink of an eye. How is this possible? How can such strength exist? Silicon-based life forms can unleash such powerful combat abilities. How come we, as silicon-based beings, were unaware? Similarly, the Blade Queen, with her face pressed against the glass, was left speechless by this scene, her face flushed and gasping for breath, leaving red imprints on the glass. She was stunned by the spectacle. Behind her, Subai, who was commanding the Blade Queen, smiled and said, "Don't be excited, because what comes next will be even more thrilling." Subai continued to command the attack of the Mech Warrior X in his mind. With a thunderous crash, the Mech Warrior X released one hand, lifting the half-shorn giant leg with one hand. The other hand gathered all its energy for a powerful strike. A tremendous force erupted, shaking the ground. The giant pincered insect and the mech warrior were both knocked to the ground by this immense power. The two massive figures, each over 100 meters tall, kicked up a tsunami of dust. At this moment, the Blade Queen exclaimed in shock, her heart racing with turmoil. Subai's strength was overwhelming. Just this one collision, along with the strongest combat force she had in her hands, the giant beetle was sent flying. What? This power is astonishing. Simply a walking nuclear weapon. Should we also use superweapons to eliminate humans? Otherwise, if this continues, we will be the ones in trouble. The colossal mech warrior propped itself up with its sturdy arms, slowly attempting to rise. Unfortunately, before it could fully straighten up, the mech warrior X had already charged in like a frenzied beast, rushing forward with tremendous force. The impact of the mech warrior X was incredibly astonishing, as if it were going to tear the entire world apart. Wherever it passed, it released endless fiery energy, burning fiercely and turning everything around it to ashes. A road paved with flames streaked through the air, producing a deafening roar. Shortly after, the Ghost King Mech X violently collided with the forehead of the colossal War God Mech. A tremendous sound echoed as the War God Mech's head instantly shattered, sending countless metal fragments and electronic components flying in all directions. The Ghost King Mech X stood firmly in front of the massive War God Mech's chest. Its eyes emitted a dazzling laser once again, and with a dull hum, a high-speed laser erupted suddenly. This laser zipped through the War God Mech's chest like lightning. Then, the laser from the Ghost King Mech X's eyes arched upward along the head of the War God Mech. As the laser moved with its motion, it instantly sliced the enormous War God Mech in half, rendering the mechanical demon's strongest combat capability completely inoperative. The signal vanished in an instant. Elsewhere on the battlefield, the Steel Wanderer and ordinary Ghost Kings continued to slay various forms of the mech demons. Moreover, they retained some of the cores of these mechs as per Subai's request, which could facilitate engineers' research into plasma weapons in the future. Under Subai's overwhelming and devastating offensive, the remaining mechanical demons anxiously prepared to change form and attempt to escape this hellish battlefield by shifting to flight mode. However, they were completely unprepared for Subai's countermeasures. His meticulously deployed air defense forces acted like an impenetrable net, lying in wait at a distance, ready to deliver a lethal blow the moment the enemy took to the skies. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. The multifunctional infantry vehicles and tracked anti-aircraft vehicles charged forward like wild horses at an extreme sprint, closely pursuing these aerial targets. Countless shells rained down, and the mech demons were ruthlessly knocked down in droves, like leaves swept away by autumn winds. Although some fortunate ones managed to escape the dense fire of the air defense units, they were merely prolonging their inevitable demise. Soon, they encountered another wave of aerial units, showcasing formidable power. Yuri's Phantom, the Allies' flying soldiers, and the Rising Sun Empire's Tengu mechs. They surrounded the enemy from 3 different directions, forming a comprehensive siege. In an instant, the aerial battle became intensely fierce. The Tengu mechs and flying soldiers, utilizing their agility, continuously changed positions in the air, cleverly evading the attacks of the mech demons while engaging them in relentless combat. Yuri's floating fortress resembled an indestructible bastion, standing firmly in the air, effortlessly withstanding the enemy's fierce artillery attacks. Not only that, but the fortress could also unleash powerful laser beams, which sliced through the sky like the scythe of death, mercilessly cutting down numerous foes. The battlefield was filled with gunfire and smoke, and in no time, a batch of mechanical demon troops was completely annihilated on the distant planet. On board the flagship, voices were filled with shock and fear. Is this the power of Subai? It's terrifying. We have to abandon this planet. It seems that's the only option, but we can't leave here in such failure. Indeed, better to be shattered than to retreat in disgrace. Use the super weapon. Deploy the super weapon. The mechanical demon forces voted unanimously. The flagship immediately broke through the atmosphere, arriving 200 kilometers away from the human base. The bow doors opened, revealing a powerful cannon with a pitch-black muzzle. This was the super weapon of the mechanical demons, the wave cannon. With just one shot, it could flatten half a planet, far surpassing Subai's capabilities. Meanwhile, the Blade Queen, still reveling in her sweet victory, suddenly felt an ominous premonition. A powerful force was approaching. Just as she thought this, a white light appeared in the distance, and her ground-based insectoid troops were instantly obliterated, including many forces buried beneath the soil. Subai merely sneered and calmly said, as expected, they have a super weapon. Luckily, I was prepared. Activate the position shield. Immediately, the base's structures were enveloped by a powerful force, bracing for the enemy's devastating attack. Chapter 211. Super Weapon Bombardment. Subai activates the position shield. Defense with ease. In an instant, the powerful wave cannon arrived, turning everything in its path into gas due to the intense energy. A small portion of Subai's troops that hadn't managed to leave the battlefield was also instantly annihilated, reduced to dust. Humans, die. The power of the wave cannon can carve a deep chasm across an entire planet. This is the power of our smallest super weapon. If released directly towards the distant planet from space, it could absolutely break the planet's core. It would leave this planet in a semi-destroyed state. We have already shown enough mercy. This is the mercy of civilization. It must be said that even though the mechanical demons wielded such a formidable and tyrannical super weapon, they wisely chose to bring the flagship down to the surface. Releasing the super weapon in this manner could minimize damage to the entire planet. However, even so, it would still cause tremendous trauma to the world. Unexpectedly, something strange occurred. When the energy beam from the weapon struck the human base ahead, it seemed to suddenly lose its effectiveness. The once formidable beam weapon now behaved like a high-speed bullet striking the armor of a tank, ricocheting off at an angle and shooting straight into the sky and outer space, accompanied by a deafening explosion. Above, the satellites orbiting the distant planet were caught in the wave of the energy beam and instantly exploded. The satellite, which was about the size of the moon, shattered into pieces in the blink of an eye, turning into cosmic dust. Some larger fragments fell through the atmosphere, creating brilliant meteor showers. They streaked across the night sky like the most dazzling jewels, offering a visual feast for onlookers. The bright white light from the energy beam was blinding. The Blade Queen immediately lowered a protective membrane over her eyes. She turned and hugged Subai's head tightly to prevent the dazzling light from blinding him. To her surprise, the white light was not as intense as expected. It seemed to have been completely neutralized by the protective shield that Subai had just activated. The light that illuminated the glass surface was merely a muted white, comfortable and not glaring. I can't even eat it, yet you want me to? Subai said irritably, though his heart did not match his words. The energy discharge from the weapon lasted for over 10 seconds before finally ceasing. Such immense power had drained the entire energy system of the starship. The ship is entering cooldown mode. Countdown, 120 minutes. Humans should be eliminated, right? The mechanical overlord was now uncertain. The situation they had just encountered was unprecedented. The energy beam had struck Subai's base, and the energy had bounced off like a ping-pong ball. As the smoke slowly dissipated, they began to reassess their target. The human base, intact. Shock, complete shock. This time, it was not the humans who were astonished, but the mechanical overlords, a silicon-based life form. Their neural circuits operated at incredible speeds, capable of processing vast amounts of data in an instant. Yet, at that moment, none of the mechanical overlords understood what had just happened. Why was Subai's base unharmed? Perhaps even Subai does not understand the principles behind it. After all, the game Red Alert does not provide extensive explanations of the functions of each weapon. The official descriptions of many weapon principles and their inventors are only a part of the story. Most of the principles are not explained. However, the stance shield, an energy weapon capable of defending against everything, has a rather vague official explanation. It was secretly developed by a coalition to prevent threats from nuclear weapons. Initially, the opposing forces did not use nuclear weapons in warfare, so this weapon was left unused until it was later stolen by Yuri. The opposing forces captured a Yuri clone, which revealed that all three factions had access to the force field shield, marking the beginning of this defensive weapon. This weapon can defend against any powerful attack, much like an iron curtain. Its drawback is that it cannot be used on combat units. Once activated, the base will enter a power outage state. Some speculate that the principle of this weapon is to use electricity as electromagnetic repulsion, repelling all impacts to achieve an invincible effect. After all, projectiles and explosions also generate impact. As for the wave cannon released by the mechanical demon, it represents a powerful energy impact. Thus, the damage is cleverly neutralized, with energy generating repulsive refraction bouncing into the sky. Unfortunately, a satellite of a distant star was struck and destroyed. We really are safe now. Even the composed Blade Queen almost lost her balance after witnessing the power of the wave cannon, rolling her eyes and fainting. Subai slapped her firmly on the backside. What are you rolling your eyes for? Keep it together. Your time to roll your eyes will come later. With one hand still pressing the Blade Queen's head, he made her face stick to the glass, urging her to closely observe the changes happening outside. The enemy was so impolite as to be the first to use a super weapon. It was only right to reciprocate in kind as a matter of courtesy. Subai snapped his fingers. Omega Yuriko entered through the door, still wearing that enticing sailor suit, a faint fragrance wafting in. You're still so fiery, Omega. Master, what is your command? Nothing much, just letting you experience the potential energy you can unleash. Within the stone sea of Subai, the super energy wave destruction device of the Rising Sun Empire was already eager to act. After continuously climbing the tech tree, They had successfully manufactured their super weapon. The Super Energy Wave Destruction Device, developed by the Rising Sun Empire, is similar to Yuri's mind control super weapon, both relying on psychokinesis for control. The only difference. The super weapon of the Rising Sun Empire is centered around 6 clones of a certain individual. These 6 clones inherently possess immense psychokinetic abilities. By concentrating the destructive energy they can unleash, it is amplified continuously through a certain energy wave destruction device. Ultimately, it reaches levels comparable to nuclear explosions, lightning storms, vacuum implosion bombs, and proton impact cannons. This type of super weapon. Through spy satellites, a certain individual selects the target locations for enemy starships. Meanwhile, the starship side detects a powerful energy approaching. It's fine, activate the external energy shield. Since the enemy has an energy shield, we have one too. Although it's not as powerful, combined with the starship's formidable defenses, it should be able to withstand some of the enemy's attacks. Chapter 212. The power of the super weapon is too strong. Missing the mission? Because just after witnessing the rays released by a certain mech, the mechanical deity has evaluated its energy impact. Ordinary metal mechs are completely defenseless. However, after activating the energy shield carried by the starship, it can neutralize the laser particles. Coupled with the armor's own defensive capabilities, resisting a wave of enemy attacks is hardly a challenge. Before the mechanical deity descended on a distant star, all mechanical deities had already completed their calculations. They had anticipated that even if they uprooted the human base, there might still be scattered troops launching a final desperate attack. Without comprehensive preparation, how could these calculation-savvy silicon-based life forms risk personal exposure and descend on the distant star? Unfortunately, despite their meticulous planning, they could not foresee the mysterious attack method of the energy wave destruction device. Energy shield activated. All mechanical deities felt reassured. At that moment, within the vast chamber of the starship, a mysterious black orb appeared. The orb, 5 meters in diameter, seemed to be slowly contracting. What is this? How can such a thing appear across space and distance? Quickly, perform a scan. Soon, the scientists of the mechanical deity rapidly detected the energy density of the orb. The energy protons inside are continuously collapsing, seemingly controlled by some psychokinetic force. This power is beyond our understanding as silicon-based life forms. So it belongs to the realm of the supernatural. Supernatural? Everything has a scientific basis, a physical basis. There's no such thing as the supernatural. Continue the scan. Yes. The scientists were still busy. However, the black, translucent orb in front of them gradually emitted an indigo glow. The small orb's collapse and contraction speed increased geometrically. Gradually, it shrank to the size of a ping-pong ball. No one knew what was happening. The energy collector is in position. Capture that black sphere. A few mechanical beings pushed a sealed metal container, enclosing the black sphere the size of a ping-pong ball. Observing through internal cameras, the sphere stopped shrinking once it reduced to the size of a glass bead. Instead, the black sphere gradually turned green and expanded at an incredible speed. In the next moment, the energy collection container was rapidly burst apart. The green sphere continued to grow, and the area engulfed by it quickly turned to dust. Alert! Alert! An explosion occurred in the main plaza of the starship. Alert! Alert! The energy has breached the plaza and is spreading to a larger area. Alert! Alert! This energy. Those outside, including Su-bai, observing the destructive energy waves, had no idea what was happening inside the starship. Suddenly, a deafening noise erupted. Accompanied by a tremendous energy shockwave, a massive starship exploded from within. Wherever the shockwave went, everything turned to dust. This time, without the defense of the shield. The blinding light from the shockwave became truly dazzling. Su-bai put on sunglasses and stretched against the brilliant light. The mechanical beings were completely annihilated, and the insectoids led by the Blade Queen suffered a 90 loss. Ultimately, the true victor belonged to humanity. How could anyone be satisfied with this outcome? At that moment, the voice of the main god echoed. Congratulations to the demon team for successfully annihilating the mechanical beings and completing the mission. The second-tier mission is now activated. Enter the planet of the mechanical beings and completely destroy them. The location of the mission planet has been marked. Mission conditions do not meet requirements. Unable to activate. Reason: the enemy starship has been destroyed, unable to reach the enemy planet. Would you like to return to the main god space of the multiverse battlefield? Huh. There's actually a second phase mission. Directly destroying the enemy's home planet. Interesting. Su-bai was somewhat surprised. However, according to the main god, it seemed they had gone too far just now. Directly destroying the enemy's warship and missing the conditions for mission 2. Now calculating the war points ranking. Su-bai earned points, 156,869. Hao Gu earned points, 85592. The leader of the Kill Mat team earned points, 35,284. Xiao Liang earned points, 25,781. Sato Takura earned points. 15,799. Lisette Hanley earned points. 15,689. Park Etienne earned points. 6,380. Just as Su-bai was feeling a bit regretful, Yuri knocked on the door and came in. Dear Commander, I have fully grasped the thinking of Hao Go. What does he actually know? It turns out that Hao Go, although it is his first time entering the battlefield of Myriad Realms, has actually had dozens of people from their parallel world return after entering the battlefield. Each time they come back, they bring some equipment and items from the battlefield, and they pass down the secrets they learned. As a result, the entire planet has devised a very bold plan to gradually seize the power of the supreme deity and ultimately take control of the battlefield, becoming the true rulers of all parallel universes. Of course, they are not just talking big, they indeed possess some special intelligence. Joining the Demon Squad signifies entering the strongest team within the battlefield. This represents the strongest faction in the entire battlefield. Furthermore, if one can become the captain of this team, they will gain special privileges. For instance, the captain can issue commands to team members 3 times. These commands are not just limited to team members. At critical moments, they can also command other squads that have entered the battlefield, allowing for group battles against stronger forces. Once one reaches the 3rd level of the genetic lock, even the supreme deity can be commanded. For example, to exchange items from the battlefield at the supreme deity's location, one must return to the supreme deity's space. However, after issuing a command, one can directly purchase the required items upon entering the battlefield. Of course, Hao Gu had previously absorbed and digested the energy core, which has already unlocked the 3rd level of the genetic lock. This privilege will also be available to him once he becomes the captain. What is even stronger is the power that comes after reaching the 4th level of the genetic lock, which allows one to command the supreme deity and gain the right to recycle items. For example, a special weapon on the battlefield can be directly recycled to the supreme deity for points, significantly enhancing the speed of earning points. The most critical ability, however, is a special capability known as attribute combination, also referred to as the universal scalpel. Hao Gu provided an example. By combining his battle elephant and griffin, a new unit called the Little Flying Elephant can be formed. He doesn't know much about the specifics, but he told Yuri X that if one can reach the 5th level of the genetic lock, they will gain even greater powers. Chapter 213, Development of General Warrior Heads. Super Fortress, marching into the mechanical demon god's lair, Electronic Star. Demon Squad Xiao Liang leaves the battlefield. Demon Squad Shamate Captain leaves the battlefield. Demon Squad's Park Etienne leaves the battlefield. Demon Squad's Hao Gu falls. A series of messages followed one after another. 3 people returned, while 1 did not make it and has fallen. Currently, only Lisette Hanley and Sato Takara remain, along with myself. Therefore, Su-bai is eager to return and see how that miraculous surgical tool is used. However, I possess the technology of the rising sun. Although it may not match the capability of enemy starships traversing the universe on the other side of the technological spectrum, the technology from Red Alert can also be considered a form of advanced civilization. For instance, the concept of transdimensional teleportation is quite abstract. Going back to the past or the future seems feasible. Based on the mechanical demons I have defeated, they surely do not possess such an extraordinary weapon. Otherwise, I would have been defeated before the war even began. Thus, there is a way to reach the planet of the mechanical demons, which is through transdimensional teleportation. After all, I already have the coordinates. However, if I were to move the combat fortress there, it would indeed seem a bit shabby. No one understands mechanics better than the Empire of the Rising Sun. This is why Su-bai intends to construct one of the Empire's largest units, the Super Fortress. This represents the pinnacle of the Empire's technology, equipped with the most powerful weapons and advanced artificial intelligence. It is also a shape-shifting unit. At sea, it resembles a blooming lotus, presenting itself as a floating island fortress. Various artillery and missiles fill this lotus, ready to unleash a barrage at any moment. Upon reaching land, it transforms into another mode known as the Sky Fortress. At this point, its form changes into a giant human face resembling that of a general. In the mouth of this enormous face, a divine breath device is installed. This is a powerful energy beam weapon with considerable strength. Now, Su-bai has decided to proceed with its construction. At this moment, Lisette Hanley approached. Commander, aren't you going back? Of course not. Because I still want to conquer the electronic star. The Blade Queen beside them looked somewhat skeptical. As interstellar insectoids, we can survive in space. To reach the electronic star, we first need coordinates and must travel between planets, which will take an exceedingly long time, thousands of years. Lisette Hanley was also taken aback by Su-bai's bold ambitions. Isn't that goal too grand? The bigger, the better. I like grand ambitions, Su-bai replied with a smile. Outside the large window behind him, the first super fortress had been produced. Nearly 100 meters tall, it floated in the air like a giant flying head, staring at everyone. What on earth is that? A gigantic human face. Is it a balloon head from a horror novel? No, it's made of machinery. It seems that our technological level hasn't reached this point yet. It can't be a mechanical deity, right? It shouldn't be. It has landed. The human guards inside the base were all shocked. Their mouths agape at the sight of the super fortress. It was over 100 meters tall, with a bizarre human face, expressing anger and disgust, resembling a fearsome demon. Compared to the mechanical war god deployed earlier, that thing seemed downright cute, like a little baby. Eve was also stunned. So massive. She glanced sideways at Tsubai, realizing that this young man's strength was hidden so deeply. He possessed such a huge treasure. So, the so-called decisive battle with the two clans just now was merely a warm-up? It was unimaginable, truly unimaginable. In that moment, Eve's emotions surged. She grasped Tsubai's hand tightly, looking at him with determination and sincerity, saying, "If you can reach the electronic star, I am willing to bring my troops to follow you. I will always obey your command." On the other side, the Blade Queen stepped forward and held Tsubai's other hand. In the face of such brutal races in the universe, they all deserve to be eradicated. I am willing to represent all the insect clan to join you and together conquer the lair of the mechanical deity. Behind them, Lizette, Hanli, and Sato Takara placed their hands on Tsubai's shoulders. We feel the same way. Tsubai was somewhat moved. You are all my wings in this galaxy. Although he was touched by the addition of two forces, he realized that the carrying capacity of this super fortress was also limited. There were so many high-level units in the insect clan, and the human clan had many advanced units as well. How much could it carry? Were they going to build 1,000 or 10,000 super fortresses? That could take an eternity. Furthermore, whether the construction speed could keep up with the expenditure was uncertain. Thus, Tsubai first instructed the remaining few to organize their troops and stand by. He gathered all the engineers from the four nations for a meeting to discuss how to transport the increased forces and whether the superdimensional transmission could be expanded. The engineers from the Allied forces began by shaking their heads. Commander, superdimensional transmission can only transport objects of equivalent distance. Based on our experiments, while it's not impossible to transport something that exceeds specifications, it can only be limited to one interconnected object with a metallic shell for shielding. In other words, you can transport a Noah's Ark filled with various animals, but you cannot send 10,000 small boats carrying various animals. Tsubai nodded. So it was a limitation on quantity, not on volume. Can you create a massive structure capable of accommodating tens of thousands of troops? An engineer from the Rising Sun Empire adjusted his glasses. Of course, he replied. Tsubai looked at the engineer's appearance, which bore the unique slyness characteristic of certain groups. Tell me more, he said. The engineer took out his tablet and clicked on a file. A series of video icons appeared. The Widow's Flower, College Ordinary, Recess Time, Golden 8 Paradise. The crowd chuckled. Oh, sorry, I opened the wrong file. The engineer quickly closed it and selected the next document. This is it, Floating Island Fortress. Such a massive fortress is a war machine constructed with significant investment by the Rising Sun Empire. It is large enough to accommodate base vehicle factories and various structures on it. Moreover, the fortress has offensive and defensive capabilities, featuring powerful energy cannons in key locations. It can be said to be a symbol of the invincibility of the Rising Sun Empire. Tsubai couldn't help but scoff at the last statement. Invincible? The engineer from the Allied nations sitting next to him probably wouldn't agree either. Chapter 214, Super Floating Island, Gigantic Fortress. Housing 100,000 troops. So, with something this large, it could accommodate not just 10,000 troops, but even 100,000 if packed tightly. Although this engineer seemed a bit sly, they say that half of a genius is madness. It is likely that besides being a genius, this person also has a quirky side. Nonetheless, Tsubai agreed with the suggestion, as this was the only feasible method at the moment. After the meeting concluded, Tsubai complied with the request, bringing out the Allied base vehicles, the Soviet base vehicles, the Yuri base vehicles, and the Rising Sun base vehicles. Next, he would let these engineers slowly construct and assemble this gigantic super fortress. Just as he was about to head back, a Soviet engineer approached him. Commander, we have successfully developed the enemy's plasma cannon. We can apply it to our advanced magnetic tanks and even modify Tesla coils. The magnetic storm infantry can also convert to this energy output form. What are the advantages compared to direct electrical attacks? Well, the damage from direct electrical attacks hasn't significantly increased. However, launching it in the form of an energy cannon greatly extends the range. Alright, take me to your experimental site. They arrived at another open space in the base. Here, not only were there Soviet engineers, but many human scientists were also busy at work. After all, the native humans here also wanted to acquire advanced weapons like the mechanical demon. Tsubai didn't mind, as he understood that success on the battlefield relies on strategy, weapon coordination, and that a single type of weapon might not determine the outcome and fate of a battle. For example, previously using super weapons to engage the enemy. Clearly, the enemy's super weapon was more powerful. However, our side had a defensive shield that blocked the attack. The enemy also had a defensive shield, but was defeated by our internal attack super weapon. At the shooting test site, a prototype ion cannon was preparing to charge its energy, targeting a point 50 kilometers away. With the launch command issued, the ion cannon accurately hit the target at 50 kilometers, reducing it to fragments. Then, the energy output was increased, setting a new target at 100 kilometers. Once again, it precisely struck the target at that distance. This was already impressive, considering that tanks in the real world currently have a range of only a few kilometers. After numerous rounds of attribute enhancements and relic support, the Red Alert tank under Su Bai's command reached an attack distance of 30 kilometers. However, compared to the hundreds of kilometers range of the 4-energy cannon, it was still too close. Su Bai nodded in satisfaction, tightening the deployment of the magnetic energy tanks in the Soviet army, making them truly advanced tanks. Understood, Commander. After tens of days of modifications, the super floating island fortress finally began to take shape. The overall external structure was completed, and internal construction was now underway. The speed of progress was indeed impressive, a product of the combined efforts of 4 factions. Additionally, there was news coming in. Allied scientists, while searching for the wreckage of enemy starships, discovered the secret of the wave cannon. This world-destroying weapons core came from a wave engine. The principle is quite simple and is basically similar to that of the ion cannon produced by the mechanical demon, relying on electric energy. However, this device is a powerful energy storage capacitor. When the energy reaches a critical point, it can release an immense amount of energy. The construction of this wave engine is particularly unique, making it currently impossible to replicate. Nevertheless, the engineers have understood the principle. The engine's core provides kinetic energy by curving higher dimensional universes. The principle is very abstract, but aligns well with the multidimensional universe that Su Bai currently exists in. This gave Su Bai a new target for attacking the electronic star, to acquire a wave engine, thus gaining the ability to annihilate worlds at will. A week later, internal installations were completed. As time passed, the surface of the floating island fortress began to gradually reveal the outlines of various base facilities. The entire floating island presented a unique concave shape with protruding peaks. At each peak, scientists from the Rising Sun Empire meticulously arranged a wave energy cannon. This is a powerful defensive weapon that can effectively repel enemy attacks. These wave energy cannons are cleverly positioned at high altitudes to maximize their effectiveness and cover a vast area around the floating island. Su Bai understands that to build an indestructible fortress, sufficient military strength is necessary for its defense. Therefore, he divided the 4 different factions into 4 independent regions, each managed by their respective forces. Each area began constructing essential facilities such as barracks, vehicle factories, radar stations, and high-tech research centers. This allows each faction to rapidly develop based on their unique characteristics and strategic needs. Additionally, Su Bai even brought in the Undead acolytes to hastily construct basic infrastructure. And once technology reached the necropolis, they crazily built several more necropolises. These structures can produce frost dragons. Since the creatures of the undead are already dead, they are not affected by radiation in space and do not require oxygen, potentially offering certain advantages. However, despite having such formidable defensive capabilities, Su Bai still felt insecure. After careful consideration, he decided to deploy hundreds of giant cannons at critical locations. These cannons can fire massive shells, delivering devastating strikes to enemies. Furthermore, he arranged numerous advanced defensive facilities on the island, such as laser towers, magnetic storm coils, and wave energy towers, to enhance the island's defenses further. To counter potential surprise attacks from the air or orbital starships, Su Bai spared no effort in installing a dense air defense system. This system is equipped with various devices, including allied air defense systems and laser weapons, effectively intercepting any incoming enemy aircraft or missiles. Simultaneously, they work in coordination with other defensive facilities to form a 3-dimensional defense system, ensuring the floating island is impervious both in the air and on the ground. Unlike the original floating fortress in the game, this modified version has added thruster engines at the bottom, allowing the fortress to float successfully in the air, becoming a true floating island fortress. Over 100 of these thruster engines were installed on the entire island, consuming a significant amount of energy. Su Bai built more than 50 nuclear power plants on the island, yet electricity was still insufficient. It wasn't until Eve produced the energy core, the most advanced energy source for humanity in this universe, that the power supply stabilized, successfully enabling the floating fortress to levitate. Constructing this super fortress cost Su Bai over 6 billion resources. Chapter 215, Attack on the Electronic Star. The power to annihilate the world. Comparable to superweapons. surpassing the resource costs of anything previously built. Do not mention my oil fields or my mines. Even if we occupied 1,000 oil fields and generated income daily, we wouldn't be able to make as much money. Fortunately, some more resources are all provided by the queen of the insect species. Thousands of mother insects continuously secrete amber minerals for mining vehicles to extract. This has led to the unfortunate insect species living on meager rations, with many young insects starving to death. This stabilized the economic lifeline, allowing something capable yet lacking in economic strength to become a reality. If the insect species had a historian, they would certainly record this period as one of feudal warfare. Unfortunately, in the insect species, everything is dictated by the Blade Queen. She is completely a queen who rules with an iron fist. A month later, everything was ready. The tanks and armored vehicles of the human race began entering the floating island. Men clad in thunder armor stepped forward, advancing towards their farthest expedition ever. Meanwhile, the insect queen led her strongest venomous army and powerful flying units, such as the corrosive ones, to occupy the other side of the floating island. At the same time, Subai was on the bridge, watching his massive interstellar fortress. With a wave of his hand, he activated the superdimensional teleportation. In the next second, a gigantic bubble began to expand, gradually enveloping the floating fortress made of metal mesh. Finally, it completely covered it. Selecting planetary coordinates. Electronic star. I heard that the forces conquering the far star were completely wiped out. How is that possible? Among known civilizations, our mechanical demon race is the strongest. Wherever we go, it becomes our colony. But the news has already been released. The mechanical mother brain AI has readjusted its strategy for Far Star. Then why did we lose last time? Why didn't TI receive this data? Of course, the mother brain didn't want you to receive this data. The data was blocked. How do you know this? Of course, I used a circumvention tool to find out the real situation. The real situation? That's right. I heard that the humans on Far Star formed an alliance with the insect species, and that's why we were defeated. How could two weak carbon-based civilizations defeat our advanced silicon-based civilization? That's because your system updates are too slow. You didn't even know this. Silicon-based and carbon-based are just different evolutionary paths. The intelligent mechanical demons have long analyzed their respective technology trees. They only survive in specific areas. There is no such thing as who is higher or lower. You've been brainwashed. If that's the case, our interstellar colonization journey should be coming to an end. Exactly. If we encounter new opponents we can't defeat, we shouldn't provoke them anymore. Fortunately, our distant star is tens of light years away. Even if we live for tens of thousands of years, they probably won't be able to reach us. Indeed, let's go. Two mechanical titans sat at a dining table in a 100-meter-high energy fueling station, sharing a pool of acidic lithium iron phosphate electrolyte. Suddenly, outside the glass window, a massive metallic object appeared in the sky. Subsequently, several small openings opened on this giant metal entity. Swarms of flying serpents emerged from the openings, flapping their wings. These creatures carried strong acid in their abdomens, which could cause corrosive damage to buildings or moving targets. This acid was comparable to the blood of alien creatures. In an instant, the flying serpents surged everywhere, splattering thick, corrosive acid across the city. Wangdefa, what is going on? I'm currently analyzing these organisms. They're carbon-based life forms. Insectoids. On the other side of the super floating island fortress, a massive opening appeared. Human fighter jets began to emerge, bombarding the area wildly. One fighter jet zoomed past and instantly collapsed the roof of the energy fueling station. These are human planes. How is that possible? The distance to our distant star is so great. How did they get here? With a loud roar, the 100-meter-high energy fueling station was torn in half. Countless mechanical titans, who were refueling here, couldn't transform into flight mode in time and fell to the ground along with the building, causing a tremendous explosion. Standing on the bridge, Subai gazed at the unfamiliar planet. Everywhere was a jungle of steel. Everything was made of metal, from skyscrapers to mobile units. It truly was an electronic star. Nurturing life forms different from humans. Fire all weapons, destroy this place. After issuing the command, the massive wave energy cannon began to emit a dull sound. This enormous device, over 20 meters in diameter, rapidly adjusted its angle and height, aiming its barrel at the towering building. Once everything was ready, energy began to converge inside the cannon. A dazzling light gradually shot out from the barrel, resembling a sun on the verge of exploding. Then, 3 beams of energy, like burning meteors, streaked through the dark night sky. They raced toward their target with incredible speed, carrying endless destructive power. Boom. The 3 beams of energy collided with the towering building, instantly triggering a cataclysmic explosion. The explosion generated a shockwave that penetrated the entire building, sending countless shards of glass and construction materials flying. At the same time, a powerful air blast swept through, tearing apart the surrounding atmosphere. Boom, boom. Before the first wave of attacks had ended, the second and third waves followed closely behind. Each volley made the city tremble, causing affected buildings to collapse one after another. Next to the wave energy cannons, massive artillery pieces roared with powerful blasts. These cannons continuously fired into the distance, with shells weighing several tons whistling by, creating small mushroom clouds far away. The entire city was engulfed in chaos, filled with shockwaves and flames. Mecha warriors fled in panic, desperately searching for a safe refuge. However, they found no escape, as the disaster had already covered the entire city. This one-sided suppression did not last long. Large formations of enemy flying units appeared on the reconnaissance satellite imagery, detected a large number of troops ahead, totaling 100,000. A cold smile crept across Su Bai's face. The war had finally begun. He ordered all air defense forces to prevent any enemy from approaching the floating island fortress and to prepare for aerial combat. Meanwhile, the Tengu fighter jets on the ground took off, forming a force of around 6,000 with the human fighters and the insectoid flying units. Chapter 216. Troop Expansion Limit 1 million. Immediately, large-scale laser explosions erupted in the sky. Notifications from the rear indicated that tens of thousands of missiles were hurtling towards them. It was time to test the air defense capabilities of the armored floating island. Su Bai decided to lower the floating island to the ground to fully utilize the air defense systems. Additionally, the insectoid stingers, dog units, human tanks, and human soldiers in Thor armor could move out to occupy the city. Su Bai's side also deployed units like the Rhino tanks, Bear tanks, Prism tanks, and Tsunami tanks. The war situation continued to escalate, with enemies approaching from all directions. It must be said that the mechanical warriors were quite formidable. When they couldn't gain an advantage on the ground, they immediately transformed into aerial units. It was a classic case of mutual counteraction. Fortunately, Su Bai had units like the Striker and Tengu Mechs, as well as the Rocket Angels. His forces could also adapt freely to counter the enemy units. However, some foes hid in the undestroyed high-rises, ambushing from the shadows, which became quite bothersome. Thus, Su Bai took out the Frostmourne. In the burial ground at the center of the floating island, the roar of the ice dragon resounded. Hundreds of frost giants soared into the sky, using their wings to freeze all the undestroyed buildings. The battle lasted nearly half an hour, resulting in the annihilation of 300,000 enemy units. We must strike hard. The enemy actually managed to teleport over such a long distance to our side. Doesn't that mean their technology is stronger than ours? Not necessarily, someone replied. Their attacks don't show much of a gap compared to ours. We should use the wave cannon to eliminate them all. No, our planet would suffer significant damage as well. Damn it. Continue to increase combat power to John Doug. The enemy has only one unit. Without supplies, they cannot sustain their operations. Although Su Bai was unaware of this high-level meeting among the mechanical entities, it can only be said that their calculations were off. On Su Bai's side, after technological transformation, even the mobilized soldiers wore the armor of the human race. They adapted to the electronic environment, with the replication center and the cheapest allies, at just 50 units each. Capturing a city was a breeze. After this battle, all engineers began to study the environment and technology of the electronic star. Engineers from a certain nation found the core of the city's energy source through telepathy, a square magic box emanating a dim firelight. Once they removed it from the city's energy hub, the entire city plunged into darkness. This discovery thrilled Su Bai, especially since he had just set up the magic stone platform left by his predecessor. Previously, his predecessor used this along with the energy core to refine 100,000 battle constructs. Just as Su Bai grasped his predecessor's secret method, the electronic energy core was delivered to him, making him feel ecstatic. Thus, Su Bai entered a state of deep meditation, beginning to refine the electronic star's energy core. At this moment, although the war in the city center had completely ended, there were still many missiles in the sky. Countless enemies continued to attack from the outskirts of the city. If he could not continue to increase his forces, he would not be able to achieve continued expansion. Especially with his territory growing larger, the lack of defensive troops would leave it vulnerable. Therefore, reinforcing his troops was the top priority. 5 hours later, Su Bai slowly opened his eyes, tightening his breath. A feeling of vastness surged within him. Particularly in his stone sea, the previously crowded land had become incredibly spacious, seemingly endless. This power elevated Su Bai's awareness to 1 million. In other words, he could now summon an army of up to 1 million, expanding from the previous maximum of tens of thousands. This was an enormous number. However, Su Bai was not satisfied, as there was still an energy core beneath his feet. This belonged to the human race. He might as well continue to refine it. This time, the refining process was shortened to 40 minutes. Like Hao Go, he increased his total number of soldiers by 100,000 units. This meant that Su Bai could now deploy over 1 million combat units. With such a force, dominating the blue planet would be a piece of cake. However, Subai currently did not have enough funds to fully equip these 1 million soldiers. Moreover, they were in the midst of a battle. Tanks were exploding, and comrades were falling every moment. Reinforcing the troops was also necessary. The mother bug, which could produce amber mines, allowed Subai to maintain his front line, which was already commendable. Earning money still relied on himself. At this moment, Eve hurried over. Commander, the army has advanced to 200 kilometers but is under attack from enemies at the rear. Rear? Isn't that the occupied zone? Subai asked. Yes, but we are on a planet full of enemies. After advancing, the enemies cleverly circled around to our rear. If we leave troops everywhere to defend the occupied zone, the enemy will concentrate their forces and pick us off one by one. Subai understood. It was as he had thought. The rapid advance had left the occupied zone vulnerable, allowing the enemy to bypass his main force for a sneak attack. The main reason was still the insufficient troop numbers. Aside from Han Li and Sato Takura, who combined had less than 10,000 troops, the current attacking force on the electronic star consisted of 15,000 human troops and 20,000 bug troops. Additionally, the mother bug could produce new bugs at a rate of 800 units per day. Subai had now committed all his troops, totaling about 35,000. Furthermore, the types of soldiers Subai could summon with his energy were unsuitable for the electronic star environment and could not be deployed. Thus, the total troop count was less than 80,000. In the meantime, even the undead troops stored in Subai's Stone Sea were called out. Although these troops had poor combat effectiveness, they still contributed to the numbers. After all, the electronic star lacked oxygen, so all building units would oxidize, making it ideal for mechanical life forms. As for his undead troops, they were already dead and did not require oxygen, so they could still be of some help. Subai issued a new command. Let us halt the advance and not occupy new territories for now. Turn around and engage the enemy in a tough battle. We need to annihilate the surrounding invading forces. Yes, Eve left, and Subai began to issue new instructions to his troops. If this planet had valuable ores, once he had the money, all problems would become solvable. Chapter 217, The Production of Iron Cavalry. The dawn of the Mind's End era, the Van Wind camp opens. With new combat orders issued by Subai, the large-scale legion composed of mechanical demons clearly did not react in time. While they were still attacking Subai's army from the rear, Subai's forces shifted from the back to the front, delivering a heavy blow to the enemy. The Frost Dragon froze the enemy troops in the sky, while various heavy weapons on the ground fired wildly. In the midst of the ice and fire, a troop of 30,000 mechanical demons was instantly annihilated, with 8,000 fleeing and 7,000 captured. The remaining ones turned into burning metal fragments. This made Subai overjoyed. Thus, the funding recovery plan could officially begin. The Yuri base vehicles were brought out once again. The troop recovery stations were constructed, with Subai building more than 20 at once, placing 5 in each of the 4 directions: southeast, southwest, northeast, and northwest. He fortified the area heavily, ensuring absolute safety with numerous bunkers, light towers, magnetic explosion coils, and giant cannons. The ion cannons from the 7,000 mechanical demons were seized and compressed by the army into the 4 city zones, where they were exchanged for funds. Those ion cannons then became weapons for Subai's armed soldiers. 7,000 soldiers, each valued at 1,000 resources, totaling 7 million. It seemed quite substantial, but it only allowed for the addition of 4,000 apocalypse tanks. The enemy has shrunk back again. What about the main forces? 10 million troops are gathering. For the planet, eliminate these carbon-based life forms. In the ruins, a squad of magnetic storm infantry gasped for breath, searching for enemy units according to Subai's instructions, accompanied by a squad of ordinary human infantry. Bro, does the future of humanity mean the red flag will cover Blue Star? The magnetic storm infantry asked the human soldier. Haha, indeed, there was a time when we saw a struggle between red and blue factions here. It was called the Cold War. Then suddenly one day, a hot war broke out. The steadfast warriors occupied all of the former stronghold. The world reached a peace, greatly diminishing the unfairness on Blue Star. All resources were invested in space exploration, laying the foundation for our current interstellar colonization. Hearing this, the magnetic storm infantry was filled with excitement. In the future, warriors with ideals will triumph over the evil of capital. This invigorated him. So, the magnetic storm infantry continued to ask, what happened next? The human soldiers found themselves in an awkward situation. Haha, instead of celebrating halfway through with champagne, the humans on the colonized planets were dissatisfied with the distribution from the ruling forces due to the solidification of social classes. As a result, the colonies on various planets organized a united army known as Zaft, which led to a war with the blue planet. Upon hearing this, the magnetic infantry felt quite indignant. Why were these colonists so difficult to please? Wasn't everyone supposed to be equal? Thus, this war was referred to as the UC War. After a year of fighting, it finally came to an end, and the rebellion of the colonies was suppressed. Everyone, reflecting on the past, continued to develop their economies and explore space, leading to the current advancements in human colonization of other star systems. Hearing this, the magnetic infantry let out a sigh. It was ultimately just a fleeting dream. The vast realm, witnessing its rise and fall, evoked a sense of nostalgia. Just then, the mechanical demons hiding in the shadows launched a surprise attack, instantly killing 3 human soldiers with their ion cannons. The magnetic infantry exclaimed in shock, "The enemy is in the distance." At the same time, the modified magnetic infantry also switched their discharge mode to ion cannons. Boom, boom, boom. Both sides exchanged fire. We were outnumbered. Within 10 minutes of combat, the mechanical demons were completely wiped out. The surviving human soldiers were left shaken. Were these mechanical demons insane? They were reduced to ruins and yet didn't flee, daring to launch a counterattack against us. The magnetic infantry sensed something was off. After checking the surroundings, they discovered something unusual. These soldiers were guarding a massive steel door. The magnetic infantry reported their findings to the nearby bear tank unit. A bear tank rolled over, its cannon aimed at the alloy door. With its electromagnetic penetrating rounds, the bear tank blasted a huge hole through it, illuminating the interior with its headlights revealed rows of assembly lines and mechanical arms. When Subai learned that an armored munitions factory had been discovered underground in the city, he immediately dispatched capable personnel to take control. The energy core was connected, and the factory resumed operations. This factory produced superalloy armor, making it easier for the mechanical demons to wear. Engineers improved the design, enabling even mobilized troops to don this superalloy armor. That afternoon, the first squad of soldiers equipped with superalloy armor came before Subai for inspection. These armors were not only more exaggerated and larger than the previous Thunder God armors worn by humans, but they also incorporated exoskeletons, allowing the mobilized troops to wield heavy Gatling machine guns. They gained both ground and anti-air capabilities, with increased damage to structures and armored units. Moreover, their movement speed was not as sluggish as that of traditional heavy infantry. He maintained agile movements. Subai asked a soldier clad in the armor, "What is your name?" The soldier immediately saluted. "I am Shun Lu, Commander Subai." In an instant, Subai was taken aback. A chill ran down his spine. The design of this mechanical exoskeleton, combined with the accent from the region, indicated that he was a warrior from Long Country. Wasn't this just a knight from the faction known for its iron cavalry? At that moment, Subai felt an inexplicable sense of destiny. By utilizing alien technology, he had unintentionally created a battlefield powerhouse, heavy cavalry. Thus, Subai inquired of the engineer beside him, "How many sets of soldier armor can the production line produce daily?" The engineer replied, "Currently, we estimate it can produce 1,000 sets of armor." "Great. From now on, let us refer to all the mobilized troops wearing powered armor as iron cavalry." Subai was extremely excited. In the civilian version of the game, a single iron cavalry unit required 400 resources to produce. However, here, by activating the replication center, he could produce a good brother for just 50 units of currency. By equipping them with temporary armor from the human race, and then switching to the exoskeleton at the production line, they could become fully armed iron cavalry. This meant that 50 units of currency could effectively expand to nearly 9 times its value. This delighted Subai, who was already struggling with resource constraints. Initially, he thought that in an oxygen-deprived combat environment, basic troops like mobilized soldiers, SEALs, or allied infantry would be of no use. Yet now, they could actually be deployed to the battlefield. Chapter 218. Accelerating Research. Wolf Assault Vehicle completed every day. 1,000 mobilized troops were upgraded to iron cavalry and sent into battle. This made the now stable front line appear quite secure. The previously occupied land was all fortified with defensive structures, making it difficult to attack. This area was assigned to Hanli for defense, while Subai activated the floating island and quickly relocated the remaining forces. In the already explored region, the north presented a larger stronghold. The key was that this area was in the rear of enemy forces, with 5 army groups and 600 enemy troops in the north. Subai perfectly maneuvered around to their back, instantly cutting off their ammunition supply. When the enemy turned back, they were immediately met with Subai's fierce assault. "The casualties are too severe. Should we reach a peace agreement with them? Let us request their withdrawal." The upper echelons of the mechanical war god faction, after more than a week of combat, found that the electronic star had consumed over 1 million troops but still could not take down Subai, who remained a tough nut to crack. They were in a dilemma. On the other side, due to a significant investment in cavalry units costing 50 each, these powerful individual combat experts replaced the expensive Grizzly and Rhino tanks. This costly unit allowed for better financial management. The original troop limit increased by over 6,000, bringing the total number of units under Su Bai's command to over 60,000. The most exciting part was that Su Bai, with the floating island, launched a surprise attack, plundering their turnover center and securing resources valued at over 90 million, which were placed in the troop recycling station. Furthermore, the scientists in the Su army had thoroughly researched anti-gravity technology and successfully developed a new type of transport unit, the Wolf Assault Vehicle. Previously, the air defense vehicle was used for quick troop transport, but unfortunately, it didn't deal much damage to ground targets. The Wolf Assault Vehicle completely resolved this issue, inflicting greater damage on ground units. Additionally, being a hovercraft, it could operate in all terrains, both on land and water. Su Bai nodded, realizing that he had inadvertently activated the Van Wind faction. With that in mind, he praised the scientists greatly. I believe you should focus on the future. I also know of a bipedal robot called the Cyclops Armored Giant. I'll give you some sketches, you can try to create it. Su Bai casually sketched some abstract designs, unsure if the scientists would understand. In any case, he felt steady and confident that conquering this planet wouldn't be too difficult. In another realm, darkness enveloped the earth, thick like ink, rendering visibility non-existent. In this endless night, a woman was desperately running down the road. The stillness around her was haunting. She gasped for breath, her footsteps heavy and frantic, filled with fear and despair. Ahead, a faint light finally appeared. It was a lonely little cabin radiating warmth. The woman's eyes lit up, as if she had found a glimmer of hope. She quickened her pace and charged forward. However, in her haste, her red high heels flew off and landed heavily on the ground. Ignoring the loss, she continued to run barefoot. Open the door. Help me. Something's chasing me. Something's chasing me. She screamed, her voice tinged with desperation as she pounded on the door, urgently seeking shelter. Behind her came a faint, unsettling sound, as if something terrifying was closing in. Her heart raced, fear threatening to consume her. Just then, the door creaked open slowly. The woman hurriedly bolted the door behind her as she entered the room, leaning against it and panting heavily, sweat dripping from her forehead. Inside, a man dressed in a gentleman's outfit, with a refined appearance, adjusted the oil lamp on the table to a brighter setting. Why you it's so late? There's a monster chasing me. My husband. The monster got him. The man slowly spoke. Miss, please don't panic. This place is very safe. Oh no. This wooden door. It might not hold him back. Calm down, miss. What exactly did you see? He asked, helping her to sit on the sofa. It was a creature with devilish horns, black-purple skin, and a pair of black wings. Oh, I see. Does the creature you described have goat legs or horse legs? With hooves? Yes. That's right. No, wait. How did you know? The man smiled, his grin widening until it seemed to stretch his cheeks painfully, revealing the dark purple skin beneath. Take a good look. Is that monster the one who looks like this? Ah, Zhao Haoyan clapped his hands. Boss, it's done. The eerie monster shape has been completed. Behind him, a team member reported, great. This kind of resentment, this chilling sensation, I quite like it. With a casual wave, Zhao Haoyan reduced the small wooden cabin to dust. 5 shadows knelt before him. The task of slaughtering this planet has been completed. Everyone on this planet has been killed in their sleep. No one will live to see tomorrow's sun. The 5 shadows delivered the souls of 6 billion people to Zhao Haoyan. Excellent. Another human world has been destroyed. Next, we will annihilate the next one. Until I find the world I once knew. I will destroy everything. Everything is for the rules. Everything is to grow stronger. Commander, the prototype of the one-eyed armored giant has been completed. Su Bai organized the report. Recent battles have been stable. The enemy's attacks have also calmed down. It seems they have decided against devouring themselves in one go and have chosen to engage in a war of attrition instead, deploying thousands of troops each day for skirmishes. However, they have miscalculated one thing. I can endlessly replenish my forces as long as the queen of the swarm remains alive. Daily, we can supply a steady amount of amber ore. Commander, the mechanical demon has sent an invitation signal, hoping you will connect with them, reported Sato Takara. Understood. Open the link. Hello, humans. Skip the pleasantries and get straight to the point. I'm deeply sorry for invading your distant star and hope we can sit down and talk. He said, what do you propose for the discussion? We guarantee that we will never be enemies with humanity and will seek eternal peace. That's not what I meant. Is there no benefit for us? Chapter 219. A stronger divine race is about to make its appearance, and Su Bai launches a surprise attack. It's a quick annihilation battle. The mechanical demon was taken aback. This man in front of him is quite greedy. I can offer you a planet we have already occupied. How about that? This condition was indeed appealing. Su Bai never imagined he would become a conqueror of stars one day. In terms of the scale of trade, he was talking about planets outright. However, he was from the battlefield of myriad worlds. After completing his mission, he would have to return to the main god space. So, even if he were given 100 planets, it would be of no use to him. I'm sorry, I'm not interested in conquest unless you provide me with the wave engine. That's not possible. The wave cloaking technology is our core technology. We can't give it to you. Change the conditions. Then there's nothing to discuss. I can give you two. Before he could finish, Subai ended the communication. It seemed the other party still didn't know what it felt like to face consequences. It was time to continue the fight, until they reached a major server or a special server. The enemy doesn't seem willing to negotiate. But we can't defeat them. There's no choice. We can only concede significant interests and abandon 3 nebula colonies to seek the leaders of the Star Alliance, the Star Spirit race. The Star Spirit race is not a single species, but an alliance formed by many alien races. They are collectively known as the Star Spirit race. Due to the numerous races within the alliance, they share their unique technological advancements. The highest leader is referred to as the Knight of the Holy Light Sanctuary, the most powerful force known in the universe. So there are indeed powerful figures. Meanwhile, Subai was lounging on the sofa, leisurely watching the battle situation. The shadow of the monk had infiltrated various locations on the planet. The reason he had just communicated with the other party was to intercept their signal location. Sitting up from the sofa, Subai softly repeated divine race, and then laughed. It was surprising that a race dared to call themselves divine. Previously, some who claimed to be gods from a blue star had been eliminated by him. Now there were also interstellar gods. What a tangled web. It felt like reading an online novel, where one fights the grandson, then the father, and then the grandfather. The shadow continued to report the gathered intelligence to Subai. The divine race possessed planet-destroying technology, and there were thousands of civilizations within their alliance. Their total military strength was in the hundreds of billions. After hearing this, Subai became somewhat uneasy. Well then, even if he deployed 1 million troops now, it likely wouldn't be a match for their hundreds of millions of soldiers. It seems I need to speed up the acquisition of the energy cannon. Returning to the map, Subai fixed his gaze on the signal source he had contacted earlier. On the backside of the electronic star, the distance between both sides was particularly far. Han Li, abandon the city defense and converge with the floating island. All forces, charge. 3 hours later, the entire army assembled. Subai looked at several comrades beside him and said solemnly, "This time, we will directly take down the enemy's stronghold and resolve the battle of the electronic star." The female commanders under Subai stood at attention and saluted. The Blade Queen also sent her highest regards. All forces, charge. Following Subai's command, the floating island was activated again. All defensive forces on the island were fully operational. Surrounding them, groups of human aircraft continuously patrolled. There were also many insectoid flying serpents, along with Subai's frost dragon and stone gargoyles, forming a mixed unit that paved the way ahead and conducted airstrikes continuously. As Subai set out, the energy cannons and giant artillery fired incessantly, attacking any obstructive targets ahead. The entire floating island resembled a massive rhinoceros, leaving desolation in its wake. Surrounding it was a sea of flames, vast and unstoppable. If you ask me how the electronic star, devoid of oxygen, could fall into a sea of fire, it's because these munitions were infused with oxygen accelerants to enhance their explosive power. This sudden assault caught the mechanical demon gods off guard. They initially thought Subai would build a city here and slowly conquer the land. Instead, Subai launched a surprise attack, instantly breaking through 3 defensive lines. Meanwhile, the mechanical demon gods gathered an army of 200,000 and set up an air defense formation at the 4th defensive line. They leveraged the geographical advantage, positioning anti-aircraft self-propelled guns in optimal locations, waiting for Subai's floating island to enter the attack range. Once both sides engaged, it was bound to be a monumental battle. Faced with the well-prepared local formations ahead, Subai saw everything clearly through spy satellites and sneered, "Foolish." However, this fierce battle did not commence as expected, which surprised all the mechanical demon gods. Just as the war was on the brink of breaking out, Subai suddenly launched a nuclear weapon at them. With a loud bang, a massive mushroom cloud slowly rose. The shockwave from the nuclear explosion rapidly spread, turning everything in its path to ruins. Although the mechanical demon gods had very high defensive capabilities, they were still thrown into chaos by such a powerful nuclear bomb, unable to maintain their formation. Many anti-aircraft self-propelled guns even temporarily lost their ability to launch attacks, providing Subai's air force with an excellent opportunity. The aerial units continuously bombarded and attacked, leaving the ground-based anti-aircraft artillery helpless, like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. The anti-aircraft artillery was bombarded by countless explosives, frozen by the icy breath of the frost dragon, melted by the strong acid released by the insectoid flying serpents, and rendered temporarily defenseless by the ultrasonic attacks from the gargoyles. Under this relentless assault, the meticulously arranged defensive formation became utterly vulnerable. 1,000 kilometers away from Subai's floating island, the mechanical demon had gathered an army of 500,000 troops. At the same time, the divine faction also agreed to the request for reinforcements. The situation on the battlefield was becoming increasingly urgent. Without hesitation, Subai crossed the abyss canyon of the electronic star, coming close to the enemy's super fortress. The opposing side was aware of this as well, quickly deploying a massive pocket formation with the 500,000 troops. Simultaneously, 10 starships took off, preparing their wave cannons, waiting for Subai to enter firing range to strike down his super floating island. Enemy has entered attack range. Prepare to fire. Ship 1 ready to launch. Fire. With a loud boom, a strong light shot out as the wave cannon from the first starship fired. Subai immediately activated the Iron Curtain device, transforming the massive floating island into an invincible entity under its influence. The enemy has activated their defenses. Continue the attack. Ship 2 launch. Fire. Subai's super fortress remained unscathed. Instead, 3 wave energy cannons fired back, sinking the enemy's Ship 9. Continue. Ships 3 and 4. Fire. The relentless firing of the wave cannons had already been analyzed by the scientists of the mechanical demon, who provided an energy model. In previous battles, Subai's activated shield had successfully defended against a wave cannon attack. Chapter 220. Super Weapons Clash. Iron Curtain achieves success again based on energy and time estimations. That kind of defensive shield could not withstand the barrage of 5 consecutive wave cannon blasts. Victory belongs to us. Ship 5, fire the wave cannon. Another flash of white light appeared, yet it remained unaffected. Instead, Ship 8 was sunk by Subai's enormous cannon. Continue. Keep firing. Don't stop. Cannot launch. Ships 7 and 10 have activated their energy shields, unable to fire wave cannons simultaneously. Damn it. How can the enemy fire their weapons while also activating their shields for defense? The experts of the mechanical demon were equally baffled by the principle of Subai's Iron Curtain. They could only watch as the floating island under the dark shroud fired all at once, sinking Ship 10 right after its energy shield was down. Turn quickly. The enemy's floating island is about to collide with us. Subai pressed forward without any intention of evasion. In a state of Iron Curtain, one becomes invincible. There is no need to consider anything else. Only one thing matters: the annihilation of the enemy. There's no time to turn. 200 meters, 120 meters, 60 meters, 5 meters. The captains of the 2 starships watched helplessly as their ships collided. In that moment, time seemed to freeze, and the stars lost their luster. The moment of impact was like a collision of stars, releasing dazzling light and a deafening roar. First, the left wing scraped against the edge of the armored floating island. In an instant, the armor plates in that area tore apart like fragile paper, exposing the complex internal structure and raging flames within. Immediately after, an irresistible shockwave penetrated the entire hull, tossing the starship aside like a toy. The hull suffered violent explosions in multiple locations, the core compartments were severely damaged, and the life support systems began to fail. The fate of the other starship was equally tragic. It tried to evade the disaster through high-speed maneuvers, but the gravitational field of the armored floating island, seemingly capable of perceiving all actions, rendered its efforts futile. Ultimately, the bow of the ship crashed directly into a protrusion of the floating island. The tremendous impact nearly folded the entire starship in half. The bridge collapsed instantly, and the interior of the ship was filled with desperate cries and mechanical wails. Easily passing through the blockade, Subai let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the duration of the Iron Curtain was extended. However, at the same time, an army of 500,000 on the ground began to fire desperately at Subai's floating island. Outnumbered and facing concentrated fire, Subai's position was also heavily hit. Many areas of the floating island suffered varying degrees of damage. Ascend the floating island. Subai waved his hand, simultaneously unleashing the Allies' superweapon, Lightning Storm. In an instant, the entire sky seemed to be torn apart. Striking bolts of lightning poured down from the clouds like dragons. They were not only the wrath of nature, but also the consequences of the Allies manipulating it. These bolts contained energy capable of shaking the earth, targeting the mechanical army and its massive air defense system on the ground. The mechanical army appeared so fragile under the onslaught of the lightning storm. Each bolt of lightning struck with a deafening roar and blinding light. The heavy armor of the mechanical army was easily torn apart, exposing the delicate internal components, which then vanished in the sparks of electricity. The anti-aircraft self-propelled guns, originally responsible for defense, now seemed powerless against the torrent of lightning. The missiles and lasers they launched appeared insignificant in the face of the dense lightning. It is impossible to block the wrath coming from the sky. One anti-aircraft vehicle after another is struck by lightning, instantly pierced by powerful currents, exploding into blazing fireballs and ultimately turning into ruins scattered across the battlefield. After all, metal conducts electricity. After rounds of battle with super weapons, The last barrier of the mechanical overlord was finally breached. Floating islands descended, and thousands of iron cavalry and various tanks entered the city, beginning street battles. Under the overwhelming firepower of absolute numerical superiority, the iron cavalry launched their final charge. Soon, they surrounded and occupied the majority of the strongholds and fortresses in the city. After 2 days of fighting, Subai lost over 5,000 units to capture the capital fortress of the Electronic Star. One could say the losses were not counted. The mechanical overlord side also fought to the death, as this battle was crucial for their survival. Although Subai's side also suffered considerable losses, most were energy-gathering soldiers, as well as human and insectoid troops. He personally lost only over 800 good brothers. The loss was insignificant compared to capturing the last stronghold. Upon entering the central command base of the mechanical overlord, Subai found that there were no mechanical overlords at all. Instead, all commands were managed by a massive computer database. Curiously, he accessed it, hoping to learn about this mysterious planet. Through communication with the database, Subai finally uncovered the secrets of this planet. It turned out that the early electronic star was very similar to the blue star where humans lived, but had a different trajectory of development. The mechanical overlords were not originally like this. They evolved from primate-like creatures. With continuous technological advancement, these native civilizations discovered that no matter how much they extended their lifespan, life would inevitably reach a threshold of extinction, with aging and death being irreversible. Faced with this predicament, their scientists began to explore new paths. After relentless efforts, they found a method to upload human consciousness to servers and transfer it to robots. This is what is known as the weakening of the physical body and the ascension of machinery, a classic setting in many science fiction works. Eventually, the people of the entire planet decided to transfer their consciousness to robots, naming themselves the brand new race of mechanical overlords. Commander, we have extracted all the data regarding the wave cannon and the wave engine, said a versatile engineer as he took a sip of coffee. Well done. Another engineer rushed over. We found 2 wave engines here. Bring them all back. Yes. The mission was accomplished, reaching Subai's ultimate goal. Next, it was time to return to the main god space and study this technology, and use it in the next battle. Return to the floating island. Just then, interstellar gates opened in the sky. Countless massive warships poked their heads out from the void. Under the illumination of the light, they emitted a golden glow. Eve suddenly took a few steps back, instantly falling to the ground. The Blade Queen beside Subai was equally shocked. The divine race has come. Their aircraft carriers have arrived. We are finished. Chapter 221. The appearance of the strongest civilization in the universe. Subai avoided their onslaught and met with the King of Rules, Zhao Haoyan. Subai remained silent, also taken aback by the astonishing giant ships. Each warship was larger than his own floating island. Before everyone could regain their composure, countless golden flying vehicles flew out from the divine race's warships, firing various lasers towards Subai's direction. At the same time, Subai's anti-air units and aerial firepower activated their defenses, and both sides began to engage in aerial combat. Due to the enemy's fierce firepower, Subai's aerial units were continuously being destroyed. Even the flying soldiers were deployed. On the other side, Zhao Haoyan returned to his fortress on the Hell Star in the Void territory. He had gained countless rules by now. For instance, upon entering the previous scene and completing the task, Zhao Haoyan attempted to use a newly acquired ability, Dream Death. As long as humans fell asleep, they would never wake up again, dying completely in their dreams. Thus, Zhao Haoyan massacred all the people in the parallel universe of Blue Star. It could be said that this power was even stronger than when he became the master of the Outer Realm. Of course, due to Zhao Haoyan's significant contributions to the horror world, he was promoted to the position of director in the horror cinema. He could move freely without the need to complete assigned tasks in the horror world, acting according to his interests. So, with a wave of his hand, he returned to the former lair of Aramond, the most secretive place in the Outer Realm, Hellstar. Lord Zhao Haoyan, it's still early. Why not lie down and sleep a little longer? With a loud slap, Zhao Haoyan sent a succubus flying with a single blow, glaring fiercely at the other succubi. I don't need to listen to your commands. Even with such immense power now, he still had a hidden grievance, being humiliated by Subai back then. Even with infinite power and exquisite beauties by his side, he could only watch. This feeling made his hatred grow, constantly wishing to encounter Subai again to kill him completely. He opened the window and stepped onto the balcony. The night breeze brushed against him as he lit a cigarette. Subai, this time, if I meet you again, I swear, I will kill you, and make sure to finish you off completely. Hundreds of thousands of demon guards, reinforced by rules, stood in neat formations, ready to sweep across all realms at a command from Zhao Haoyan. Meanwhile, the situation on Subai's side was continuously deteriorating. Neither side had deployed super weapons, but in aerial combat alone, all of Subai's legions were no match for the enemy. Even the giant super fortresses surrounding the super floating island, along with their accompanying war machines, were gradually being sunk. What to do? They were in the midst of war and could not return to the battlefield of all realms unless they disengaged from the combat. A few minutes passed, and it seemed the enemy had grown tired of playing. The giant divine sky carrier began to gather light at its bow, seemingly preparing to use a super weapon. Suddenly, Subai felt something in his storage ring. Key to the Hellstar Gate, one-time item, attribute. After use, it can open a gate to Hell, leading to the fortress of Aramond, and can only be used for a round trip. This item was dropped when he defeated the Lord of the Abyss. But Subai had never used it because he had been engaged in the World War since returning from the Outer Realm, with no time to challenge the monsters inside. However, now that he had grown so strong, even the rewards from inside had become worthless to him. But now, it seemed this item could serve a life-saving purpose. It could open a portal to escape the battlefield. Without hesitation, Subai activated the key. Immediately, a mysterious void gate appeared about 500 meters ahead of Fukushima, comparable in size to the interstellar gate of the enemy's human carrier. There was no time to waste. All troops moved towards the Hellstar Gate. As the floating island advanced, the entire body instantly moved inside. On the divine sky carrier, the elder of the Holy Knights remarked, "Such weak enemies require our alliance to intervene? This mechanical demon is too weak. Indeed, since we are already on this planet, let's not stick to the previous agreement of taking 100 planets. We should directly incorporate the mechanical demon civilization into our alliance and confiscate their territory." Agreed. However, it seems the enemy is attempting to escape. Should we pursue? Of course, if we let them go now, and a small part of our forces stays behind to control the electronic star, those enemies might sneak back and catch us off guard, which would be a waste of time. Agreed. In that case, let us pursue and annihilate them completely. The elders finished their meeting. All aircraft carriers, follow me into the enemy's portal. Subai led the floating island into the Hellstar. The environment here felt very familiar, the floating void territory and the vast giant mushroom forests. Could it be that this is the outer realm they had entered before? After going around in circles, are they back again today? Floating island, proceed according to my instructed route. Subai wanted to see if this was the same outer realm they had been in before. If so, he might encounter the person from a certain nation whom he had transformed into a demon guard, as well as the civilization ruins he had created. However, the floating island had been flying for a long time without any discoveries, but there were many strongholds of various races on the ground. After firing a couple of shots from a giant cannon, several races were instantly wiped out. There wasn't much worth exploring, and they could return to the main god space of the myriad realms at any time. The question was, what should be done about the Blade Queen and the commander of the human forces on the distant star, Eva? They couldn't enter the main god space. Forget it. Let us wait a bit longer. Once the superdimensional teleportation is ready, they would quickly return to that portal and activate the superdimensional teleportation back to the distant star. Even if the divine beings came after them, they would have enough time to travel. Looking at the time, there were still less than 5 hours left until the superdimensional teleportation was ready. At that moment, on Subai's spy satellite, a group of human shadows appeared. How strange. How could there be humans here? Due to the nature of the spy satellite, their appearance was unclear. This instantly piqued Subai's interest. After all, it was all outer realm space, and with his current attributes, he could rampage here alone without fear of safety issues. Nevertheless, Subai brought a team of elite warriors as escorts. Tanya and Yuriko joined him in the Fangfeng's wolf vehicle, heading towards the group. Chapter 222. Battle with another force. The Emperor is really something. Aside from issuing terrifying orders in the cinema, forcing us into a horror world to complete tasks, he also brought us to such a terrifying outer realm. Indeed, this time he even ordered us to control the Queen of Pain. There's no choice. The Emperor's goal is to destroy humanity. In the next scene, if we don't kill at least 1 billion people each, the Emperor will have us eliminated. The Emperor is truly terrifying. This small team consists of 6 people, both men and women. One of them, a calm and collected man wearing glasses, rushed over and slapped one of the women across the face. "Are you crazy? You think you can mention the Emperor's name?" The woman immediately knelt down. My fault. My fault, my fault." As he spoke, he repeatedly kowtowed toward the direction of the imperial residence while slapping his own face. "Your Majesty, I was wrong. I was wrong." Yet even so, a dark shadow swept over. "How dare you gossip about me?" With a sickening crunch, the woman's chest was pierced, and a pulsating werewolf heart was torn out. Crunch, crunch. The man chewed the heart bite by bite and swallowed it, his mouth full of blood. This man was Zhao Haoyan, who had proclaimed himself emperor. The team before him were reincarnators from the horror cinema under his control, also his subordinates. Among them, the bespectacled man with a grave expression was known as Captain Chu Xian. These individuals had grown stronger through surviving one horror film after another, each having slaughtered no fewer than several 100 million humans. Zhao Haoyan looked up. In the distance, dust billowed on the horizon as a hovering vehicle approached. How could there be a car in this outer realm? Go check it out. One team member spread his arms, and black bat-like membranes sprouted from under his clothes and armpits. He leaped into the air, flying toward the oncoming vehicle. With a loud thud, the team member landed on the roof of the hyena assault vehicle that Subai was riding in. Ha ha ha, who's inside, human or ghost? Since the hyena assault vehicle was fully enclosed, there was no way to see its interior. However, those inside could